Disclaimer: this webcast series is provided for general and public view of the students of Philippine Women's University, but it is not limited to its stakeholders. The purpose of the webinar is discussed in the web form and email sent by the college to the participants. In addition, all participants have agreed that this webcast series may be recorded and aired in social media platforms. The school is making the webinar and handouts electronically available on demand, on condition that the recipient or user will only use the materials internally or cite PWU in all forms of publications or papers. All trademarks and images referred and used in this webcast are the property of their respective owners. The students, guests, and other participants like live viewers of this pre-recorded webcast agree that these are all for educational purposes only. In addition, the views and opinions expressed in this webcast are solely those of the speaker S, field experts, and/or moderator S. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the institution's policies or views. PWU School of Hospitality is neither responsible nor liable for any damage caused by viruses to your computers or other properties, due to accessing, using, or surfing the site or using the application or through downloading of material, information, text, images, video, or audio from the site or from the application used by PWU School of Hospitality. Lastly, sharing of the link is highly discouraged. Be reminded of online courtesy such as wearing proper and decent attire and setting your microphone to mute unless you were given a chance to speak by the moderator.
A pleasant day, everyone. The Graduate School of Hospitality Management of the Philippine Women's University welcomes you to this webinar entitled Tourism and Hospitality Lecture Series, Reconditioning the Industry's Practices Towards the Better Normal. Thank you for joining us today in this event. My name is Jamie Joyce Dangle and I am your moderator for today's webinar. It is an exciting afternoon for us as we are eager to learn from our invited hospitality and tourism industry experts from both government and private sectors. It's an honor and privilege to have them with us today. Before we get overwhelmed by our excitement towards this virtual conference, let us offer this event to our Almighty Father to remind us of His presence and generous grace as we offer an opening prayer for God's blessing and guidance.
Dear Lord, here and now, in the midst of our physical distances, we know and believe that you are near. We praise you for this graced moment to once again gather virtually for the sake of continuing learning processes amidst this pandemic. We call upon you in this time of illness and challenge. We may be tired and sometimes felt worn out by the pressures of the new way of living and where vulnerable lives are threatened. We may be grieving the precious lives of our lost loved ones, but we continue to believe and hold on in your merciful love. It is in your love and your grace that we all entrust the sufferings of our world at this time. Inspire all our leaders to discern and direct course of actions wisely aligned for the common good. Reveal to us new and creative ways to come together in solidarity despite the physical distances. Call us to profound trust in your faithful presence. Breathe within us, among us, and around us. Grant healing and comfort to those who are sick with COVID-19 and grant strength to all healthcare frontliners. May we put our trust completely in you, Lord. Keep us all under the shadow of your healing mercy. And now, as we begin our webinar, guide our thoughts, words, and actions so that we may walk in your path of peace and of love. Make us persevere and endure in this trying time. May we find comfort, knowing that nothing can separate us from your love in Christ Jesus, our Lord. Amen.
Moving on, this virtual event will never be possible without the eagerness to master the MICE industry by our participants, and of course, without the collaborative efforts of our very supportive sponsors. These people are the keys to the success for this event. Again, to all our participants, welcome and hope that this day will bring forth abundant learning to all of you. And to our sponsors, thank you very much for your unwavering support. At this point, allow me to do the recap of the previous session. 2 themes were presented by 5 speakers and acknowledged by 5 reactors. The themes were B2B, leading e-commerce to better new normal, and hospitality and tourism marketing in the new normal. Mr. Leo Vergara provided us an insightful presentation on emerging business concepts in times of COVID-19 pandemic. As the hospitality industry adapts to shifting consumer demand, cloud kitchens have emerged as a food and beverage alternative. He reminded us that the best restaurants are the ones that pick up on industry trends and those that innovate. Ms. Katrina Banzon, on the other hand, showed us an overview of the status of the economy. For a quick recap, the discussion focused on, first, venturing into agribusiness, second is the localization, and lastly is the opportunity in e-commerce business. She imparted a very good lesson that if the consumer is king, then brand communication is the king. So don't go dark, speak your customer language, and lean into data. For the third speaker, Dr. Mutok advised us to have entrepreneurial persistence in these trying times. He shared some best practices of businesses during the pandemic. Ms. Ruth Palang showed us different business ventures in Dubai to make us realize that there is an opportunity even in this crisis. She stated that crisis is composed of 2 characters. One represents danger and the other opportunity. We must face this pandemic with resilience, and with that, she advised us not to forget to look after our customers and let their opinion shine and make a bold move towards innovation. And lastly, Mr. Irvin J. Arok shared the 7 digital hacks as this play an important role in digital marketing. So those are the learnings that transpired during the first part of our webinar series.
We are very fortunate to have the support of no other than our university president. To the entire university, especially this afternoon, for gracing this webinar. It is our pleasure to introduce our university president, Mr. Marco Alfredo M. Benitez, for his inspirational message.
Dr. Felina Young, University Chancellor and SVPAA, Dean Prime Abellana, Dean of the PW School of Hospitality Management, our esteemed faculty, distinguished speakers, dear students and guests from all over watching on our social media pages, good afternoon. I'd like to congratulate the organizers of this webinar series, our students from the Doctor in Hospitality Management program, for their very timely and relevant topic, reconditioning the industry's practices towards the better normal. The first day of the series, last June 19, was successful and well attended. And the flow of the program, the topics of the speakers, and even the graphics used were very interesting and eye-catching. I was intrigued listening to the speakers as they talked about the new trends in the hospitality and tourism sectors, the new businesses they were able to establish even in the midst of the pandemic, new food concepts, and innovative process and system improvements. One speaker also gave us a stark picture of the challenges faced by our economy, from companies having to rely heavily on loans, many going bankrupt, and many more forced to lay off workers in order to survive. Equally important, we learned about the mindset and characteristics needed by entrepreneurs and business owners or managers in order to survive and even thrive during uncertain times. Two things struck me as very obvious. First, the future, or in fact, the present, of the tourism and hospitality industry, and all industries for that matter, is digital. To survive and thrive in this current situation and in the post pandemic world, businesses have to embrace digital technology. From back end operations, supply chain, finance and audit controls, inventory management, the customer experience, and even sales and marketing, digital technology has reshaped the way we do business. Second, in order to adapt and thrive, one must have an entrepreneurial spirit. This means always looking for solutions to problems and opportunities to be better. It means being willing to take risks and try innovative solutions. Before a process becomes a best practice, it first starts off as an idea that the entrepreneur was willing to try out in order to address issues in the business. As any entrepreneur or business owner knows, there will always be issues that will come up, and there will always be opportunities to improve aspects of the business. An entrepreneurial mind doesn't get too discouraged when these issues arise, but sees them as part of the growth process any endeavor must go through. The entrepreneur is also aware of growing trends that may affect his business and is quick to pivot or adapt, and is always eager to learn from the experiences, mistakes, and successes of others. The tourism and hospitality industry can be very exciting, innovative, and fulfilling. Likewise, it can also be quite challenging, risk-laden, and thankless, as the past 15 months of the pandemic has shown us. However, there will always be silver linings. Just like last week's webinar, I look forward again to learning about issues, trends, and best practices from our industry practitioners. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Now we are to start the first part of today's webinar session with the theme Jumpstart, Reimagining the MICE Industry in the Better Normal. At this juncture, I am honored to introduce to you our first resource speaker. Our first resource speaker is considered as one of the world's foremost authorities on international tourism in the hospitality industry. He has over 25 years experience in the Las Vegas hotel industry, and he received both his bachelor's and master of science degree from the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. He earned his doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Laverne, California. During his early career, he was one of the youngest convention and catering directors, overseeing the third largest convention facility in Las Vegas. His efforts helped develop Las Vegas into one of the top exhibition and convention cities in the United States. He has held senior executive positions at several Las Vegas hotels, including the Sahara Hotel, Boyd Hotels, and the Tropicana Hotel. Due to his tourism expertise, he has been involved in numerous hotel projects internationally and has consulted on tourism projects in France, Egypt, Ukraine, Saipan, Japan, China, and Korea. Moreover, our speaker was a member of Singapore's Tourism Consultative Committee, providing strategic advice for Singapore's Tourism 2020 plan. The Singapore Tourism Board presented him with the Business Event Ambassador Awards at the prestigious Singapore Awards event. He was also involved with the opening of Marina Bay Sands Integrated Resort in Singapore. He is also the past president of Asia Pacific Council of Hotel, Restaurant, and Institution in Education, Asia's largest hospitality educators association in the year 2011 to 2012, and is a leader in both the academic and the professional worlds of hospitality development. He is an internationally renowned speaker, facilitating workshops, teaching courses, and addressing conferences and conventions for hotel professionals and academics on topics including strategic planning, customer service quality, human resource motivation, security, education, and hospitality management. Furthermore, he was one of the founders of www.30minutetalks.com, where students can view numerous short educational videos on hospitality topics that were created during the COVID challenges in 2020. In 2016, he successfully completed his position as Senior Vice President of International Relations for Taylor's University, Malaysia. It is with great honor to welcome our first resource speaker, Dr. Andy Nazareshu.
Hi there. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Ms. Dangle. That's a very detailed history of my career, so I appreciate all the research you put into that. And also I wanted to thank the chairman, Villa Saran, for inviting me to participate in this conference. Of course, I want to thank Mr. Villaflor, who has been coordinating and communicating with me for the last couple of months, I think, as we prepared for today's presentation. So I hope that you're all ready to hear about the MICE industry. The MICE industry is something that I've been involved with my entire career, one way or another. And for those that are joining us for today, the MICE, everyone understand what MICE means? It's meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibitions, that's MICE. And I always add events, because that's also a part of the MICE industry. And if you look at the background behind me, that's sort of a representative of the Crystal Palace in London, which the first conference and exhibition was actually back in 1851. And that's where they held the great exhibition, and they built a facility that allowed 6 million people to come to the exhibition. So that was a great way to start the history of the exhibition for today's session. So let me share my screen with you. And I hope everybody can see that okay. And if you look at this, actually I found this wonderful graphic. If you look at that, it looks like an old bazaar. And so you see hundreds of little tents and people running around trying to buy and sell. And this really demonstrates the purpose of the MICE industry. This is a great example of the way people want to sell things to their customers. So you need to have a place to do that. So this is a great little graphic that I found. So I hope you like that one. So why is MICE important? That's why we're going to start the presentation today. You know, we're suffering through the pandemic right now, and a lot of things have been hurt. But why is the MICE industry so important? So if you look at this photo, you see a lot of people, just like today's conference, that are all coming together for a common purpose. In this case, it looks like students that are getting an education in a classroom. And you'll notice that they're all there listening and learning on a topic that they're all interested in. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So the MICE industry brings people together. But the key thing that I want you to understand about the MICE industry is that when you create a new product, and whether it be a car, whether it be a screw or bolts, or whether it be fashion, or whether it be materials or technology or computers, you want to sell those products to people. Now, how can you show your product to the whole world or to those people that buy those products without letting them touch it? Now, we do a lot of business online. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But when someone is going to buy something and buy thousands of them to sell at their stores around the world, they want to meet the people who created that product. They want to touch the product. They want to test the product. They want to make sure that the product is something that they're willing to invest their money in. So that's one of the purposes of an exhibition is that's where people bring their new products to sell. Now, currently, what are we missing when we don't have that exhibition? The first one is a creative experience. If you have ever been to a conference or an exhibition, you walk down the aisles, just like in those pictures I showed you, and you will see one product after another. Everyone is there trying to sell you something or show you something that they created. It's always fun because even though you may be there looking for one particular exhibitor who's selling a new product that you're aware of, it's the person across the whole aisle that you see something that you didn't anticipate. So that's really the fun part when you go to an exhibition, is to walk through the aisles and see all of the creative ideas that people have when you're walking down the aisles. Now, the other thing that we miss when we don't have exhibitions is meeting customers. That's the purpose of it, is you want to meet your customers. We can communicate online all year round, but when it comes time to make a deal, you want to meet that person, look them in the eye, you want to shake their hand, you want to ask them questions, and you want to feel confident that they are a person that you're going to do business with in the future. Another thing that you like to do is you like to meet your friends. A lot of people in the same industry, they work in their own areas. They're just like we work in a little bubble. You work in one hotel or one convention center. You may never see somebody from across town. So exhibitions and conventions allow people to come together so they can share ideas and stories and just to see their friends that they don't see all the time. And that's a great way to actually meet future employers. That's where the gossip and the conversation happens when you're having coffee or you're having those friends, and you learn what's going on so that you can share that knowledge with yourself and make sure you have career opportunities. Now, I mentioned that what are we missing? Email and video. That is now this past year, we have all learned how to use Zoom, and we all do video conferencing, and we've been doing a lot of work by email, and that is fine for doing business. But meeting people at exhibition and conventions provides time for that personal interactions. You know, the social relations to develop trust and to have those creative discussions and opportunities. One of the things I find when I go to a convention is you'll have a schedule of all the speakers that are going to speak, just like this one. And you will go to the conference and you listen to that one speaker at 1 o'clock, and then you realize the other speaker that you want to hear is probably at 4 o'clock. So in between, you will randomly look at the schedule and maybe pick some conference speakers that you have never even thought of about before and go sit in and listen to those sessions, and you'll hear new ideas. That's very important. And what happens when you go to a conference is you'll sit next to somebody that you never met before, you'll strike a conversation, you'll make a new friend, you'll exchange business cards, and you never know where that will lead to in your business career. Now, what is the economic impact of this industry? You know, who benefits from meetings and conventions and exhibitions? Well, of course, convention centers are built in cities in order to provide a place for people to show their exhibitions and show their products. So convention centers are built specifically that purpose. They use it for a lot of community events too. But of course, when you have a convention center, people fly to that city. So the airlines do very well in convention cities. Hotel people, when exhibitions and the exhibitors and the attendees have to stay at hotels, and they may typically a convention will last 3, maybe 4 days. The exhibitors will come in a day or two before to set up for the exhibition, and they may stay a day after. So hotels get a lot of business from the MICE industry. They provide the sleeping rooms and transportation for the attendees to go to the exhibition. So hotels are suffering right now because of the pandemic. Next, restaurants, of course, after a long day at walking through the exhibition, listening to conferences, listening to speakers, at night, everyone goes out for dinner. And so the restaurants around the city are all full with conventioneers. They always look forward to those kind of activities. The next area that is the entertainment venues. It could be a concert, it could be a show, it could be a museum, it could be anything where people can do something after they work all day, they go and do something entertainment at night. So that's the economic impact. And when you don't have a convention, all of those areas suffer. Now, what's the current situation in the MICE industry? Well, it's actually very tough because of COVID-19. As we all know, COVID-19 has stressed the entire world. You know, every airport is pretty much empty. People are not traveling. And so it comes down to businesses are very concerned about the lack of opportunity to sell their products. So without the mice industry around the world, I can tell you that products and services, new ideas, new fashion, new technology, all of those things are suffering to a certain degree because they don't have the opportunity to show those products to their customers. So when you look at this past year in the mice industry, COVID-19 has shut down the industry. People can't fly, hotels are closed, governments and cities are limiting how many people can actually be in a room to very small numbers. So when you have a conference or an exhibition, you have thousands of people in a small area. Those have been actually eliminated for this past year. So everything is sort of moved online, just like we're having this conference here. And online events are wonderful, but they're not the same. How long can we sit in front of a computer screen and get the same kind of information that we would get meeting something in person? I guess in a relationship, I guess you can talk to a friend all you want online, but someday you actually want to meet that friend in person someday. So a convention, even if it happens once a year, allows people to get together once a year to see each other, to greet each other, and to share ideas. So quarantines, all those things have been confusing. The big thing that's also confusing is the changing COVID policies. You know, when you plan an exhibition, sometimes you plan the big ones 4 or 5 years in advance. And those attendees that go to an exhibition plan a year in advance, 6 months in advance. But today with the change in COVID, no one really knows what's happening or if they have to be quarantined or they're going to be able to fly or if the hotel's going to be open. All of those things make it a challenge. So company policies are very strict because they don't want to risk, they want to reduce the risk to their employees because they don't want them to get sick either. They don't want them to bring back to their companies. So people have restricted their employees to stay at home. So this past year, most business has been done online. It's just a matter of the way, the choices that we have. Now, what's happening currently? Well, most of them are hybrid. You know, in some places, even as a conference we're involved with in a couple of weeks, you know, some of it will be in person and some of it will be online. Some people will attend and others won't. So it's just the way people are adapting to the current situation. You want to go, but you can't. So you have to do something in order to compensate for that lack of a visit to a convention. So you do it online. But companies and those companies that make products and companies in schools and everyone understand that they need to be seen. So even at an online convention, they will sponsor things. They want their name to be seen. They want to know they're still active. They're still open. They're still in business. All of those things are very important for a company during these times. Now, what's happening? Convention centers are slowly reopening with enhanced COVID procedures, which I'll go over in a little bit. Now, the future of mice. You know, the future is still bright. One way or another, the mice industry has to come back strong. Because if we want to have the economic impact of new products and services and new technology, new cars, new fashion, we have to, the mice industry will come back one way or another. So what I'm going to show you is in Las Vegas, they have a wonderful convention center. And I've been involved watching it grow for the last many years, actually. And in the beginning, it was very small, and every year it grew, and every year it grew. And it's become, Las Vegas has become one of the top convention and exhibition destinations in the United States, if not the world. Two reasons. One, they have massive amounts of space. And two, Las Vegas has hundreds of thousands of over 100,000 hotel rooms. So if you're going to have an exhibition that is going to have a large number of people attending, you have to have the facilities to support that operation. So the past year, Las Vegas has had the same challenges as every other city in the world. They have basically been shut down and closed. The convention center was closed because they were not allowed to have conventions with large number of people. So what did Las Vegas do? They are during the past year, they have been expanding their facilities, knowing that in the future they'll come back. And I'm going to give you a short video. This video just shows you what Las Vegas has been doing to get ready for the new opening. I hope you enjoy this. I like that. Vegas means business, because they truly enjoy and take advantage of the convention industry. Now, I mentioned that MICE will slowly return and it start to open in Las Vegas. The real test in Las Vegas will be a conference, an exhibition that will be hosted from June 8th to June 10th, so in about a month. It's the World of Concrete 2021. Now, you think concrete. Who's going to go to a show about concrete? Well, they're expecting about 60,000 attendees to this conference. That's how many they've had in past conferences. They would expect it to be even more. So when you look at a conference for concrete, there's conferences and exhibitions for every product you can imagine, whether it be clothing, whether it be cars, whether it be boats, whether it be planes, whether it be computers, every area of our business world, there is a convention or exhibition somewhere that is discussing that particular topic. So what's going to happen is more people are looking forward to coming back to Las Vegas or any convention center to start getting their businesses rolling again. But there are always going to be an online component. I expect that for the next year or two, most people will be trying to go to a convention or exhibition, but a lot of them will still be doing it online. So those people that are hosting exhibitions will be offering some kind of online component, video tours, new products, presentations for those people who cannot travel for whatever restriction may still be in place. Now, MICE operators still want to entice convention exhibitors to come to the convention center. So they're going to provide lower prices, they're going to provide better amenities, and most importantly, better procedures. And better procedures is one of those things that we have to expect in every area of the hospitality industry. Now, when you talk about safety in an exhibition, in the past, we used to just build the biggest room we could build. We would invite as many exhibitors as we could squeeze in there, and we would open up the doors for thousands and thousands of people to come into that facility. Really not much concern about social distancing. And if you go online and look at exhibitions, you'll see how crammed, how busy, and how many people are shoulder to shoulder in those areas. Well, that's just not going to work anymore in the MICE industry. So the one thing I found is this is the Informa All Secure. This is the company that has put together standards and procedures for exhibitions as we come out of the pandemic and the COVID-19. So things are going to change for exhibitions because they have to have physical distancing. They have to be better cleaning, better hygiene. There has to be more communications to let people know what they have to do, and they have to protect and detect things that are going on throughout the show. So this is a very important feature. And I recommend highly that you take a look online at this PDF, the handbook. There's a lot of information in it. I'm going to go over some of the key topics, but for anyone that's interested in going into the MICE industry, these are the kinds of things that you need to know for the future of our shows. Now let's go do another one. Now, what are some of the things that'll change in the exhibition? Number one is crowd density. Yes, before we would let 10,000 people walk into an exhibition, open up the doors and say, come on in. That is not going to happen anymore. You're going to have the exhibitions are going to be more spread apart. The aisles are going to be wider, so the shows may be a little smaller because you won't be able to fit as many exhibitors in there. The key one, as this is an easy one, we're doing it in hotels now, is non-contact registration. Yes, we'll be doing it online. You won't, which is a good thing, really. You won't have to wait in those long lines to get your badge and get checked in order to enter the exhibition. Now you just do it online, show your phone, and walk into the exhibition. But the key thing is before, the doors would open at 9 o'clock and everybody would walk into the exhibition. Now, what will happen is you might be able to walk in at 9 o'clock and another group of people might walk in at 10, another group of people might walk in at 11. And so they'll stagger the admission to reduce the numbers of people that are in the exhibit area at the same time. That's an important part of providing opportunities for increased social distancing. An interesting one is enhanced quality of the visitors. See, before, if you had an exhibition for, let's say, the food and beverage industry, they would open up the doors and almost anybody could sort of sign up, register, and walk into that exhibition. But now, in order to reduce the volume, they're going to say, why do you want to attend this exhibition? And if you're not a restaurant or if you're not a customer of that particular exhibition that is really interested in it and have a reason to be there, then they might not let you go. So this is going to change. The quality of the shows are going to increase because the quality of the people that are going into the exhibition are the people that really belong there. So exhibitors actually like that part. Floor planning, we mentioned that before, there'll be more space. Visitor transportation is another area that has to be reviewed, because when people stay at hotels on large conventions in cities, there'll typically be 100 buses that'll be doing circles around the city, picking up people at the various hotels and bringing them to the convention center. And so that's great, but now there'll have to be even more buses and more opportunities because we can't fill up the bus the way we used to. There'll be more space, social distancing, at least for the near future. So these are 6 ones. I have a few more, the key ones. You know, one of the things that I guess we're already doing this, we're eliminating handshakes. You know, that was one of the things that exhibitions, always shaking hands, trying to find that new customer. A lot of companies at exhibitions have social activities. Well, those social activities are going to be different too. You can't have the big cocktail party and thousands of people in a small area. You're going to have to reduce the numbers, spread it out, find bigger venues. I would expect, depending on weather, a lot of social activities in the future will be done outside or in larger spaces. Conference room, just like that picture we saw at the beginning of the presentation, there'll be more space, there'll be more tables, there'll be more room between people as they sit there. That has to adjust. And that reduces the number of people that can actually go to meetings because there'll be less seating in those typical meetings. Now, all of this is good, except who is responsible for monitoring and controlling all of these procedures? This is the opportunity for people in careers, because there's going to have to be someone who is almost like a supervisor, and they already have positions that they're creating that people can walk through the exhibition area. They can make sure people are following the rules. They make sure the exhibitors are doing what they're supposed to, and all the things that we've discussed are being followed. And if you don't, then they may ask the exhibitor to leave, and we don't want you to come back next year. So violating the policies when it comes to COVID in the future, there'll be severe consequences. So monitoring and control, if you don't do that, then you can say all of these things, but it may not have the same impact if you don't enforce the rules. Now, food and beverage is going to change too. I think a lot of it is going to be pick up. And in the past, there's always a food and beverage area within the exhibit area. People used to go there, sit down, get something to eat. Again, because the exhibition number of booths may be smaller, this food and beverage area may have to be bigger in order to give people more room to sit down and enjoy their meals. And of course, even when you set up an exhibition or a convention, you will need more space, more time to allow the workers to build the booths, and then after the show to break it down. So these are 12 different topics, and I just touched on each one of them briefly. I hope you will go online, get that handbook, and read it through for those people that are interested in seeing how the industry is going to change in the future. Now, as we get near the end of this presentation, I want to talk to you about career opportunities. You know, if you're most people, as you know, the hotel industry has been suffering too through the pandemic. The restaurant industry has been suffering. Every area has having challenges. But the key thing about the MICE industry is it is a great opportunity because it's not the one career choice that a lot of people choose because they really don't know too much about it. And as it's, I'm glad that I'm here with the Philippine Women's University, because the one thing I want to tell you is that women are better in the MICE industry than men. They're better organized, they plan better, they're better communicators, and they're better in follow-up. So those are the attributes that is perfect for the MICE industry. So for those people out there that are still unsure of where to go to your convention center, look online, find out opportunities and check it out. I think you'll find that it's an exciting, challenging career opportunity. And the MICE industry will come back strongly in the future. So I think that's one thing that you should be watching as we go forward in the future. And as far as my presentation, I want to thank you. Good luck in your future careers. Of course, everyone, be safe, protect yourself, protect your families. And of course, I want you all to protect our MICE and hospitality industries. And I'm Dr. Andy Nazarchuk, and I want to thank you for your listening to this presentation about the MICE industry. And I'll look forward to getting some questions from you as we continue throughout the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andy Nazarchuk, for the insightful presentation and information you just shared. Without a doubt, the MICE industry is continuously prospering even in this time of pandemic. We will now proceed with the presentation of our second resource speaker. Our second resource speaker started Unleashed by SJ during the pandemic season to create an accessible learning platform for coaching and mentoring on personal development, public speaking, events management, through online workshops and webinars. She is committed to her mission to unleash the next generation leaders to excel and shine for God. She worked in the academe and taught in several areas such as personal development, business communication, events management, and corporate management. She teaches at Far Eastern University and the Lyceum of the Philippines. Furthermore, she is an active member of the Philippine Society of Talent and Development, or PSTD. She is also an event host and consultant with 10 years of experience in the field. She started in birthday parties and then ventured doing on-the-day planning for weddings and hosting corporate events. To date, she has handled around 200 wedding celebrations and 100 plus birthday parties and around 40 corporate and church events as well. She is awarded as a Certified Events Planner by TESDA, or the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Please help me welcome our second resource speaker, Ms. Stephanie Jane Relucio.
Speaking alongside with the doctors. All right, so we have Dr. Andy, and I believe that Dr. Andy's presentation, he was able to lay the groundwork for MICE. And for today, I'll be sharing with you the basic of how we really do things now. And I hope that you'll be able to put this into practice. I'm very honored to also be speaking alongside with Dr. Christina Calusa and of course Dean Prime Cabellana. I was invited by my dear friend in Far Eastern University, Sir Eugene. So Sir Eugene, thank you for inviting me for your event, and I am very excited to share with you the practices that we do now. All right. So, our discussion for this afternoon is about digital events, or the new normal of the MICE industry. All right, so allow me to share with you the experiences that I had. So of course, as mentioned by Jamie, I am actually, I'm speaking alongside with the doctors, but I am a nurse by profession. MBA. So when I was still working as a nurse, just to give you a history of how I went into the events industry, not having a background at all. So most of the things that equipped me to handling events and to doing hosting is actually from the church experiences. I did a lot of doing behind the scenes and events planning in our church when I was still in college. And when I practiced as a nurse for 3 years, I was actually bored of the routine. So that's when I figured that I'm not really for the hospital. I'm for hospitality. All right. So during that time, I'm still working as a nurse, 9 o'clock to 3 in National Kidney, working as a wound care and a vascular nurse. And I would actually ask our doctor, Dr. Quintos, my previous mentor and boss, if I could leave at around 3, because of course that's the end of my shift. And then I would do events hosting for birthdays, as mentioned by Jamie, events like birthday parties, weddings, and corporate events. So I started from there. I started hosting in weddings, and up to this day, actually, although a lot of events, especially in the celebration purpose of event, were canceled, or I would say were rescheduled. But MICE is actually doing, going on to the next level during this pandemic. So currently, I am still an events host and consultant. I actually just hosted events last week. It's my first time to actually host a virtual event for celebration for a debut, because most of my events are actually still on site. I have events that were rescheduled. A lot of wedding preparations and planning were rescheduled to October to next year. Although it was booked, we initially had a venue, but then it was rescheduled because of course they wouldn't want an intimate wedding. They would still want to have their friends there. So that's my history of entering this business. And of course, currently, I am really in the MICE industry because I am working in DTI, Philippine Trade Training Center. So normally, and even to this day, we are conducting trainings for, of course, for the Philippines, catering to Filipino MSMEs. All right. So that's my work in DTI, or Philippine Trade Training Center. I conduct training. I also write the modules for the businessmen. All right. So I have mentioned to you, and I believe, of course, Dr. Andy has mentioned a lot about the MICE. But of course, in events management, this is what I would normally teach my students in FEU and Lyceum. Of course, events are, as we know, are classified according to events purpose too. All right. So there are events that we use to celebrate, celebration events, commune events, convene events, and commerce event. And I have mentioned that today, because of the season that we are in, celebration events were either rescheduled if they would still want to do it on site. But last time, all right, so that was 2 weeks ago, I actually hosted a virtual debut celebration, and it was amazing. But you really have to wear many hats now, because I was not only the host at that time, I was also like the technical person. I do share screen. I do ushering as well. I make sure that the engagement is alive. But it was a great experience because, of course, I will not leave the comforts of my home. I would just, do hosting in the comforts of my home, being very convenient about it. So I love it that celebration events are actually at par already with the MICE industry, because MICE industry, we're actually not put in halt. Diba? Hindi natigil yung MICE industry even to this day. But with celebration events, I believe that is most affected. All right. But yes, last week, actually this was last week, yes, I did hosting, and I actually was a resource speaker for my company for the National Food Fair. Of course, exhibitions for MSMEs who want to showcase their food and their products in locally. All right. So normally this would be done in World Trade Center, and I actually miss that feeling. I used to go to IFEX. I used to go to exhibitions like that. But with this type of training that we did for the exhibitors for the National Food Fair, those who would want to join the exhibit were actually immersed to a training for a week. So they would in my case, I train them to make the most of the social media, like setting up an account, the basics of it, because most of these companies are really pure brick, and they are just transitioning to click, or sometimes they already transitioned, but they were not able to maximize the use. So I love that, through this convene or commerce event that we handled last week in DTI, I had that realization of the beauty of doing MICE events in the new normal. First, it's not written on my slide, but first, I love that it's cost efficient, right? Because normally when people would go to an event, of course, transportation, you really have to think of that. A lot of things come into play, a lot of operational costs that you would now be able to save because we are doing things online. Aside from the cost, I believe the greatest advantage of doing events online or doing our MICE event online is the reach. In the Zoom, we're able to reach around 200 people, but most of them were actually from the province. So I was able to spoke to a lot of people from Davao, from Visayas, and I love it that, because the event is now online, we're able to reach people from afar, people from different parts of the country that would really have incur costs if they would go to like the on-site event. So the cost and the reach is, I believe, one of the most and the main advantage of doing events online. Now, as mentioned by Dr. Andy, and this is where I would actually put stress on, because I believe he already mentioned it, but I will try to at least break it down and somehow give you some practices that I normally would do with the events that I do, whether it be a celebration event or whether it be a commune or a convene event. So we want to really reiterate that events should be designed for experience. Most of the time when we conduct event, whether it be online or on-site or hybrid event, sometimes I would say the hindsight of most events planner, and this is my takeaway, even from handling events on site, some people would focus on the product, or some people would focus on the service. Like people, when we say focus on the product, like yes, we would get speakers that are very good, that they really are experts in the industry, and then that's it. But we fail to take into account, like, what experience do I want to create out of the event that these speakers will go into. Like for example, right now we are 30 in Zoom, right? And the product of this particular event that we're handling are the speakers, of course. And of course, the service that they would provide would be sharing their expertise, their experience. But what about the experience of those who are attending or those who would invite? How do we really customize and design our event, our webinar, our live cast? How do we decide it in such a way that we would still feel the presence, the atmosphere? Because that is the missing link right now in conducting online event. We really do not get the feel of it. We really, because when we attend an event, of course, there's food, and then there's the people that would usher you. A lot of things come into play. We really were able to stimulate all the five senses, and I believe that's why people go into events. Like for example, when we would try to break it down, of course, if we're just like putting it into example, like music, the product is music. Like halimbawa, Moira would release this song, right? Paubaya. All right. So when she released the song, the product is her song, right? And then Moira will be the one doing the interpretation. All right. So the product is the music. Moira will be the one giving her service, performing that, interpreting that. And if people would if it would be sung differently by another person, maybe it would sound like differently, but because Moira was able to interpret it in such a way that you really get the feel of it, then that's the service. But why would people still go to her concert? Why would people still, buy tickets, spend money to go to the concert? Because of the experience. And I believe that that is the beauty of events. But right now, we have limitations, but I believe that we also have tools that we can use to still create the experience that we are yearning for when we used to attend events online, on site. And that's what I would want to share with you today. All right. And I hope that you'll be able to pick up from this. All right. So, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Andy, events in the new normal were actually classified into three already. And before new normal, I was not actually used to these terms, but now I'm very much akin to this. Like, yes, there are on-site events, and I remembered like earlier January this year, uh, the protocols were actually, I would say, not that rigid or not that strict anymore, right? We're able in our church size is around 1,000 when we gathered before, like before this pandemic happened. So it's around 1,000, and you really get the experience of attending the church. Okay, but when pandemic happened, and then we're here already on the new normal, the limitations is still there. So 10% is the only people that were allowed. So we're around 50 or around 60 when we would gather on site, and that is taking into account the speaker, the ushers, the people that would really be there. So it's 50 inclusive of the staff and inclusive of the attendees. So you really get the limitation, and we're not really able to go full blast still because of social distancing and this and that. All right, so on site. Now, March 21, this is what happened. Actually, this is the last Sunday before I believe the new protocol or the ban were actually I would say parang I am not sure if it's MECQ or ECQ again, March 22 forward. All right, because the cases arise again. All right, so what we have planned for this particular event is for on-site. So it was like a last minute plan on like how do we create this, because initially what we have planned on is already on site, although we would still do it online. So what we did as part of the solution is to create a hybrid event. So I believe it was already mentioned by Dr. Andy, but to really just butter it up a bit. All right, so of course we have around 20 people on site, and then around, of course, online it would be a wider reach. We have around 1,000 attendees online, and that makes up for a hybrid event. And right now we are purely online, right? There are no people and like on site, doing the technicals and all this. All right, so on site, online, and hybrid. If I may ask you, like from the comment section, you can type in like what type of MICE events have you handled already? This is a live class party. It's more of like an orientation for a 9 weeks class that we would handle, or a 9 weeks a seminar that we would handle. So for you guys, tell me if what have you organized so far, on-site, online, or hybrid? Were you able to organize? All right. So Edwin, we're able to organize an online event. All right. How about the others? All right, so Evelyn also online. All right, so we haven't tried conducting hybrid events yet. All right, that's fine, that's fine. All right, so most of us were able to handle online events. All right, now let's take a look at this. What would be a typical MICE program, and how do we add on flavor now? How do we able to add flavor and to create experience now that we are on the new normal? This is where I would want to really emphasize on. All right. First, with the cycle of service that we do, of course, we have registration. And registration, if it's a hybrid event or if it's an on-site event, but definitely with the three, on-site, online, and online, we can do online registration. On-site registration is possible if you would conduct it on-site too, or hybrid. All right. With registration, what do you think are the things that we could do to create that experience? All right. So one of the practices that I do when with doing registration is, of course, make it easy for them, right? So of course we have of course we do email invitation. I got an email invitation from Sir Eugene. I got an email invitation from Miss Sheila, if I can remember. Yes, Evelyn, that's true. We also use QR codes in DTI PTTC. All right, that's good. All right, so we have to make it easier for them. And sometimes we also make use of the Facebook event, right? Where people could RSVP, yes, no, maybe. Although I don't really like maybe, because Filipinos are not really much good with confirmation or confirming events, even to this date. All right, so that's it. That is what I think we should work on. We really have to say yes or no, not maybe, right? Okay, because we're having trouble. If it's on site, we would have problem with the cost. But of course, online, we really don't know like how many people to expect, right? So with registration, first, I think we really have to make it easy for them, and then reminders are very important now because I would notice, I remembered I conducted a lot of webinars for Unleash, which I would introduce to you later. I remembered when, of course, I have sent the invitation doing email blast. So I believe most of you got like the email blast for the Zoom link for this particular webinar that we're doing. But I would really stress this out now that reminders are very important with online event. People are so much bombarded with too much webinars, and you really have to be on top of that. Like I would set reminder a day before, and I would notice that sometimes reminders via SMS is actually effective because I conducted events for Unleash and a webinar for introduction to coffee making. And I would notice that even though people would pay for it, like 100 people would pay for a single webinar, only like 80% would be able to really make it for that event, even though they have paid for it. But of course, in doing things on site, most of the time we would have 90 to 100% attendees if they have paid for it because they really get the experience. But now, since it's online, people tend to forget, people tend to not really be mindful of their schedules, of their time, have booking two meetings at once, right? So reminders are very important to create that event experience that you really would want your guests to be there. But most of the time, since it's online, we assume that everything is automated, that's it. But we're not able to create experience. Now, this is where I would want to emphasize on too. Once people registered, like for example, right now, I'm the co-host of this meeting, and there are around 31 participants. I'm not sure if because Sir Eugene invited me for 2 o'clock, but I was not able to really be part of like how this was conducted initially. Like what time did we really start here? But ushering is very important for an event. In our church, we have Facebook Live every Sunday, 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and we really put premium to the virtual ushers. We really did a lot of trainings for virtual ushers because they create the experience that the event is actually alive. You know, I would notice that an events online usually have poor engagement, and that is not because the participants are not do not want to engage. Most of the time, it is really on the organizer's hand to create that kind of engagement. Keyboard warriors are very important. They play a very important role with ushering because of course when you would attend an on-site event, people would like greet you, they would smile at you, and that creates the experience that people crave for attending an event. But because online we do not have that, we have to have a virtual usher, and only few people practice this. Even in DTI, this is actually what I have suggested, because in our church we put premium with virtual ushers. Like people would come in, and then for example, in our event now, if this would be conducted in like a webinar in our church, people would be greeting like everyone here. Like people would virtual ushers would like key in the name of, hi Irvin, welcome to our event. Hi Jamie, Joyce, how are you doing? A lot of virtual ushers, you would see the chat box really popping in and out because that is what we would want to create an experience. If this is just, you know, a product that you would just want people to watch later, then maybe that's the reason why people would rather watch it later, because there's really not much difference if I would attend it real time, if I would attend that particular event, because there's really not much difference. I would just watch it because me being there doesn't make much difference, because I felt that I was not really welcome there. I was not really getting the feel of it. But ushering is very, very important. So there are a few mice industry practitioners that play really, that you know, put emphasis on this one. All right, so registration next. Of course, after the registration, open and billboard video. Of course, right now doing things online, I would still notice this, of course, conducting a lot of webinars in DTI. There are moderators that I was able to at least barge into, that were not they were not able to practice this, doing video loop, using the time to, you know, at least do video teasers and ads, do a lot of countdowns. So I believe some people still miss this. And what I'm saying is we really have to put premium on the basic. These are basic but not much people are doing the practice here now that we are doing things online. So of course we have ushering reminders like virtual ushers, I would say. And of course, I noticed now that only few people would turn on their camera. And when we do things online, especially the organizer, of course for the audience you really couldn't expect much from them, but for the organizers it is highly encouraged that we open up our camera, that we turn on our camera, we really engage in the chat box, we really maximize the use of reactions, because as we have mentioned, events is supposed to be experiential, and if we do not offer that, then it would just be, our event would just be like one of those. We're not able to really offer a unique selling proposition, or a competitive advantage of our event, because we're not able to design it to the experience. Yes, we may be able to offer like a product, a good service, because we're able to create a lineup of speakers, or a line of the activities that we planned, but without that experience, people would not come back to our event. Of course, background music is also important with uh, doing this to make it more engaging. All right. Next, of course, the opening prayer. So it could be a video one or a live prayer, national anthem. Again, this is just a typical run through. With opening prayer and national anthem, I don't think there's much difference when how we do this when we do these things online. All right. But this is where I would want to bank on now and linger for a few minutes. Acknowledgement is very important. Doing events or hosting events on site for many years, I really take my time doing acknowledgement, because as I have mentioned, and I have read this particular line from Austin Kleon in a book of John Maxwell, Be a People Person. He goes, if you want people to be interested, you have to be first interested with them. All right. So there are two kinds of people in the event. The first kind is like the here I am, and the other kind is the there you are. And if you would want to create the experience, be a there you are kind of person. You really have to put much importance on how to acknowledge the people around you. Like I would like to greet the following people, not just because in the normal event, like in the on-site event, we usually would just acknowledge the VIP or the key persons. But doing online event, I really appreciate and take my time to acknowledge the guests that would create the engagement, to encourage that, to encourage the chat box, the use of chat box, to elicit reaction, so that people would get the feel and the experience. So really put premium and acknowledge the highly engaged guests. Like for example, in our chat box now, I would see that Miss Evelyn is actually the most engaged one. And when I conduct events, like in DTI last time, when I conducted an event for Click and Close, I would really emphasize greeting the people, like, oh, yes, I got it. Or, all right, okay, we're able to get a comment from, because you really would want to encourage that kind of participation, that kind of atmosphere that we're able to create with the events that we're doing. All right. Next, all right. Of course, a typical MICE program should have icebreaker at the beginning, because this is where you really get to warm up. A lot of webinars that I have attended miss this part. Ask check-in questions like where are people watching from, like how are you doing, how's the of course we do not ask how's the weather, but we ask like how are you in your place. All right, so we ask a lot of questions, maybe related to like the webinars that we would be doing. All right, so you can use games, activities, poll questions. That is how we can spice up the experience of our MICE program now. Of course, welcome remarks. All right. I believe Jane, you guys were able to do a great job with that, with presenting the speaker. She was really well versed with the background of the speaker. And I believe that when we do welcome remarks or introduction to speaker, we really have to tap into the organizer to really welcome the speaker. Like in DTI, we actually have a tech test and a dry run, and we would tell the people there like, okay, if we would introduce a speaker, let's turn on our camera. Let's make sure that we use the clap button in Zoom, the reactions, and use the chat box. Hi, you're doing great, because we want to create the experience. And I think, as I have mentioned to you, we already know how to run a MICE event. But what we are missing here sometimes, and most of the time, is really creating that experience by really going back to the basic of it. All right. So with speaker's presentation, I would say that the speaker would always need behind the scene assistance. Like right now, Sir Eugene actually chat in with me the timekeeping, so that's very good. All right. So behind the scene assistance, like what do you need? Like can you do like a sound check? So that's what we would do in PSTD as well. Right, Q&A. So for Q&A, the challenges that I have experienced with Q&A now is I remembered when we opened the floor and everyone can just raise hand and unmute themselves. Is the challenge is really the time. So because of that, I suggested that we just allow them to ask questions, via chat, and then it will be addressed by the moderator, because sometimes it lengthens the time and people do not want that, right? All right, so raise hand, chat box, timekeeping, and moderation, and of course the synthesis. That is what is most important. All right, breakout session and plenary are optional, but if you would want to create that experience, I suggest that we really go for it. Earlier, actually yesterday, I had a meeting with Philippine Society of Talent and Development, and I'm part of the events committee and the monthly event of PSTD. We do the Tipanan, wherein 100 to 200 plus trainers or developers here in the country would gather every month. We would have a convene event, and when we planned the program for that, what we have observed is January Tipanan, we're able to successfully conduct a breakout session. We're able to find the portal where we could get it. But I remembered like February and March where we did not really push for that because of the time. But we, during this month, we would actually have it tomorrow. We suggested to bring back the breakout session because this increases engagement and people would have like a high return, like a repeat attendee, if they were able to create that kind of connection during the breakout session. And then for the plenary, of course, a few synthesis would do. All right, so closing remarks, message of thanks. Now for the message of thanks, this is what I would normally see that people would miss out with webinars. Like few people, of course, we usually would tell them like thank you for coming here. Like if you would want to get your e-certificate, answer the feedback form or the CSF. But aside from feedback, group photo should actually be done not during the last part but also in the middle part, because people tend to leave. All right, like for example, the webinar would start at around 2 o'clock. I would say that at the beginning or when people are still complete, we can already take a screen or a group photo, and then we also take one afterwards. And then of course during the message of thanks, that's the time that we really encourage them to follow on our socials, be connected, of course still be engaged. And then the sign off, for the sign off, again, the role of the virtual ushers, sending e-certificates and keynotes. What I am emphasizing right now is a typical run of a webinar that we would do, or a typical run of a seminar if it's done on site online, a typical run of a seminar or a webinar. But we have to add on the ingredients that is necessary for doing these things online. And I still see a lot, I would say around 80% of those people conducting webinars still miss this. They still miss this. All right. So I would just, pass through this because I know that you know this. I will just, cut on the basic of it. Of course, customized background screen is very important for the digital event starter pack. I would still see, and it's actually been a peeve of mine when speaker would use a background that is not really appropriate for the event. I don't like that at all. When it's too distracting, too busy, we really have to orient the speaker, the moderator, everyone that would be part of that event to really have a decent background, if not a uniform background. All right. So of course, lights, a good light, camera, and audio. You should do a sound check of that. All right, and make sure that you are actually facing the window, just like with me now. No. All right, strong internet connection. I hate it when people would say like I don't turn on my camera because of poor internet connection. We really do not want that. We have to invest on a strong internet connection. I actually shifted my brand of my service provider for the internet just to make sure, because this is the line of business that I am in, and this is how we do things now. If we do not really invest on a strong internet connection, then we will not be able to create the experience, even though we have a good speaker, even though we have lined up a great service for them. If your internet connection is poor, you still would not be able to create that experience. And of course, the good software. All right, so with the software, This is a few tips. Of course, Zoom, we use that. We also use OBS. I would say this is our the starter pack. The FB Live, I use this three in conjunction with the other. All right. So for Zoom, I actually was not on premium. I just used like the just a tip. Of course, just a tip for everyone. Of course, I actually just used the Zoom of my brother. My brother is a senior high school student. So I actually use a Zoom lift with the time if you're a student, right? If you're a student. So for some of us who have like senior high school students and you would want to use their account to register, Zoom would actually take out the 40-minute limit and you would be able to use Zoom like you would with a premium account. So of course, OBS and Facebook Live. Canva is also Canva offers a premium right now with teachers who are practitioners, and they would actually offer it for free. So I'm using Canva in all of my slides now. I would notice that you really have to invest in all these forms, in all these softwares for you to create a great experience also with your minds. Of course, Google Forms and Certify. I use this in conjunction. Like the moment the participant would answer the survey, it would automatically, the certificate would automatically be sent to them. So I use this particular software, Certify. It's actually just an add-on or an extension in Google Form. All right. So that's what have been very useful for me. All right. So this is where I would end. The best practices for events is first make use of the visuals. Create a visual that is very good. So I'm not sure if we're able to practice this in our webinar, but we have a webinar this Friday. We actually invited the Department of Tourism Undersecretary, Ms. Alma Jimenez, for a talk on farm tourism. And this is what I have created for her because I'm part of I am the moderator for that particular MICE event that we would do on Zoom and Facebook Live. And this is what I did. As a template for the program that I use, I created, if you would see on my slide, I created like icebreaker questions at the beginning, and then I created a program flow for the participants to be oriented, and then I created things like this to be our background. So you really have to invest on like a good visual for your event. Second, documentation. I'm not sure if this is what you are practicing now, but I would normally tap on people to capture scenes, to capture behind the scenes, not just like taking a screening, but taking like, because of course when we do things online, we would hire a photo vid, we would hire like a photographer to capture like the opening prayer, this part, but doing things online, we fail to actually capture some of the highlights of the events, and we're not able to use that particular documents or photos to actually promote our next event. So documentation is also important. All right, virtual ashers, as I have mentioned. So I hope that in your next event, you'd be able to somehow practice on the use of the virtual ashers. That is very important if you would want to create the experience. I found this to be very, very effective because only few people were actually, when I attended like a social media conference on like really making the juice out of the Facebook Live, out of the Zoom. It's really the virtual ushers that bring life. They are actually, the next level of coordinator right now with the MICE event of the online. And of course, tech team to really check like if people would come in, you still could admit it. Tech team and virtual ushers, I would say, are one of the most important add-ons, or like they would really play a big role right now in doing MICE events, because most of the time we just pay attention to the speaker and the attendees. But these two or these three, how many virtual ushers would you assign to? But they play a very, very important role. All right. So what I like about new normal, and this is where I would end, is when I was still studying, because I believe the people here are actually doctors, so it's an honor to speak to you. But when I was still doing my master's in PLM, so I graduated a Master's of Business Administration in PLM. I remembered when I'm doing my business plan for that. I actually suggested, because it's like a team effort for the business plan for this particular subject. I remember I suggested like this business, Unleashed by SJ, but of course with my name unattached to it. I would just visualize like doing conducting trainings and webinars for the professionals, for the students, especially on events management and personal development. That is my heart since then. But then my classmates do not agree to it. Of course, they were not able to really see my vision for that. They came from like a different line of business and industry. But that was way back 2015. So 2018, I was about to push this through, but because of the costing of like the venue, renting it, and then like making sure that you would have all the logistics ready and prepared, would you be able to make profit out of it, or would you somehow incur loss because of it? So I wasn't able to push that through. I was still working in FEU at that time. But what I loved about this new normal is I was able to somehow, to my surprise, I was able to launch my online platform of conducting webinars and workshops because of the pandemic. Can you imagine that? That Unleashed by SJ, my vision is to see unleashed Filipino students and professionals, and I was able to successfully launch it last year. This was already mentioned by Jamie Joyce. So right now, I'm every Saturday, I still would conduct webinars, and I have workshops, because of course my Monday to Friday I work in DTI, PTTC. But I love that because of the pandemic, I was able to push through, because conducting webinars, I already had a run of 4 batches for introduction to coffee making. I invited a speaker, and of course, people would pay registration fee for that. I was able to push a lifelong dream of mine because of the pandemic, because we are taking MICE into the next level now. And right now, I also conduct workshop. This is actually a workshop that is still ongoing. It's 5-session events management workshop. And these people actually, they are architects. Some of them are actually musicians. They would want to learn how to do events management, and they have like different events that they have in mind, and I do workshop for them. So I love that, today I would say is the new normal, but the next level for events industry. And I hope that with what I have shared with you, where I'm able to somehow encourage you that, uh, events is actually beautiful, more beautiful now. We just have to take into account like what key elements or what parts of the program am I missing on? Am I not able to take into account that I would still push through for this to create an experience that I would want to if it's done on site. So again, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you're able to reflect upon the webinars that you have either attended or you have either organized or participated, and at least see the gaps or see like how you can create more experience by incorporating certain elements on that particular program type. So again, thank you so much, Edwin. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sir Eugene. Thank you, Jamie, and of course to everyone. Maraming salamat po.
All right, so we can now start our panel discussion, starting off with our first panel reactor, Dr. Evangeline E. Timbang.
Dr. Timbang, it's good to see you. I'm always happy to see you, and you're the perfect example. I said in my presentation, when you go to a conference, you make new friends, and we met at a conference many, many years ago. We've been friends and sharing professional stuff for ever since. So thank you. It's good to see you.
Andy, we're a product of MICE.
That's true.
Product of international conference, isn't it? So we have become what we are today because of the MICE industry, isn't it?
That's true.
And I'm so happy to hear you sharing on the review of the MICE industry. Once more, we were given this privilege to go back to the times when we enjoyed the face-to-face meetings, right? And we attend international events. And you come to the Philippines because we invite you, and activities like our core activities or our university activities, and it's all part of MICE. It's that we meet people, talk to people, and we make differences, isn't it? I'm so happy also to listen to the presentation of Ms. AJ. She gave us the micro view, perfect micro view, Ms. AJ. congrats for that. And it's the global view of it. So yes, we are all aware of what's happening to us and the impact of the COVID-19 to the industry, and therefore all we can do is dream on that day that we'll have a great restart. We'll turn the button and we'll have a great restart and we'll all recover. We know that will happen very, very soon. But we have to be prepared for it because things have changed a lot, no? Both of you, both dynamic speakers have mentioned to us and reminded us of what has happened to our industry and what may still be done and what should be considered now as another formula. Let's see, COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a lot of things, new ways of seeing things and doing things. That's the good story of it. Yes, we got sick, we have this bad health, and we have the death toll rising, but in spite of that, we have to remain resilient, hopeful, and positive. Things will turn out for the best. So with that, maybe Dr. Andy, my first question or sort of, I'd like to solicit some advice from you for in behalf of those who are listening right now, would be on a global perspective. What do you think could be important factors that would, improve, highlight, or add on to the restart of the tourism industry when it comes to MICE? And the second question is, since you have both discussed to us the relevance, and we're so much familiar with meetings and events in particular, I'm quite serious. What's happening to the letter I, to the incentive aspect of MICE?
Mhm.
So these are my two things that I want to share with everybody. Global factors that will affect or put us to a very good start on a global view for MICE industry.
Yeah, actually, Vanji, those are good questions. First, in order for us to get back to work again in the mice industry, we have to be able to travel. And right now the world is starting to get their vaccines slowly. Some countries faster than others. Personally, I have two vaccines. So I am looking forward to have the opportunity to travel. So if you look at the International Airline Transportation Association, they are working with like about 30 airlines in order to create a travel pass, which is an app that you would put on your phone that would prove that you have had your vaccines and that it's okay for you to travel. And so I think that's going to be the first step for everyone is to get their vaccinations. A lot of people, some, young people, some people are avoiding the vaccinations. I think it's important for people to get their vaccinations if they ever want to travel, because that's going to be important for people to be able to get onto an airplane, to check into hotels. Who knows how much it's going to be, but I believe for the next year, knowing that someone has their vaccine shots will help them get back into the travel industry and traveling again. Until then, mentioned the incentives. I think SJ's her passion for what she was doing. She's the perfect example
Yeah.
of the type of activities that have to happen now because people can't travel. So incentives are going to be done online because how do you reward your best salesperson, your best employees? How do you reward them? Well, one way is to have an event, but today events are going to be online. Because while you can probably give everybody a bigger bonus, money is nice. We all love money, but money is not the greatest motivator. Recognition, developing relationships, people appreciating what you do, all those things are very important. That can still be done online. And even many of the ideas that SJ mentioned, how she brings in the virtual ushers and how she makes it an experience. That's the kind of activity that you want to have, because someone who is the best salesperson wants to be remembered. They want everybody to know that they worked really hard and they were successful. So that's the key thing for people to realize, that it's important to recognize your employees. So I think that's going to be the key. So globally, it's going to be the travel pass and it's going to be the vaccines, and airlines are slowly getting involved with that. But it's going to be a slow return internationally. Domestically, a little bit easier. You know, in the United States, I expect travel to boom in the next few months because there's a pent up demand for travel, for business, and for other activities. But as far as the rest of the world, I think it's going to be a year or a year and a half before people can travel comfortably to other countries.
Okay, by the way, thank you for boosting our feeling of being recognized as the women are important in the mice industry. Thank you for
Yes.
recognizing the talents, the power, and what women are capable of.
Well, everywhere I go, you know, over my years, I've seen many executives. My career was in the mice industry. Yes, I was pretty good at it. I think I was, but I trained and taught many young women in the field, and they excelled much better than I ever was. So their ability, the creativity, their attention to detail. Actually, good taste is another thing too. You know, in other words, how to do something to make it not only function well, but to look well, to smell well, as SJ said, her using the six senses. I do a whole presentation on the six senses, so I like that comment.
Okay, thank you very much. If I may just ask one a comment on much, you gave us all the practical tips to become an event planner, Ms. SJ. For Ms. SJ and also Dr. Is how about the supply chain stakeholders? Do you see any challenges or do you see any tips or solution to manage your partners who belong to the supply chain as you conduct the MICE industry?
Unfortunately, Vanji, you're breaking up a little bit there. It's
Oh,
one
sorry.
of the challenges with our technology.
Yes,
Give me the short question one more time, Vanji.
yeah. This is all about supply chain.
Supply chain. Okay. You know, the supply chain around the world is in trouble.
Okay.
One, you know, if you, you know, it's a one small thing can affect it, disrupt the entire supply chain. The best example is the cargo ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal. That one incident slowed down the entire supply of products to Europe and some to the US. The other problem is prices are going up because there's not so much supply, the demand is higher and therefore prices are going up. Even in the United States, we're expecting inflation in this next year. The price of gasoline is going up. The price of lumber is going up. The price of food is going up. You know, prices are going up. And that causes a problem for the mice industry. So we have to come up with ways to provide economical ways for people to come together, but we also have to use the online facilities. And I think SJ could probably answer that a little better than I could.
Okay. Andy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Timbang. Now may we call on our second panel reactor to give her insights. Let's welcome Ms. Sherilyn Pilos.
For me as an event organizer as well, okay, what are the things that you can recommend, okay, or advise to us, okay, because I've been attending hybrid events, online events, okay, so how can we promote our webinars, what will be our unique selling proposition so that other people will get or will patronage the webinars that we're doing right now. Kasi we have so many challenges, we have so many so many competitors that's offering different webinars nowadays, right? So yes, what can you recommend to us, organizers?
All right. Thank you, Miss Cherry. And I'm sure Dr. Andy could also share his insight on this. But with our experience in DTI and what I'm practicing also in English is, I totally agree with you, Miss Cherry, that you know, right now we are very much bombarded with a lot of free webinars, right? And people would actually commit to it and then not attend, and then, you know, because there's so much distractions in social media. But we still would want to promote our event in social media. And with our experience in DTI, of course, our way of promotion is, of course, timeliness and being early when it comes to releasing it, doing email blasts, personally inviting key person. And of course, there are some people that we could really invite. We call it like sometimes the driver for, attracting people to come into our event. And aside from that, with what we do with DTI, of course, because right now we conduct online event via Zoom, and we also launch it, doing it live on Facebook. So what we do with Zoom is, of course, we put premium in like the participants of Zoom. You really make use of the virtual ushers, really giving them the full experience. But with Facebook Live, just like with what I did with Click and Close, the last webinar that I have hosted, and I was part of like the speaker. uh, what I did in Zoom were around 200 people, but with Facebook Live, the reach were around 1,000 plus, and it was like a really great reach. And what we have encouraged in DTI is all of us, as in from like top level to like the associate. We really have to share the post. We really have to make use of the virtual ushers to use the maximize the use of tags. Like tag people, share this to multiple groups. Like right now, on Friday, we have like a webinar we would conduct for farm tourism, as I have mentioned earlier, and I'm part of the moderator and also the one really conceptualizing the run of this event. So what I did yesterday is we, of course, we invited the premium people for the expert really on that particular industry. But what we did is I joined a lot of groups in farm tourism on Facebook, not because it was my interest, but because that is the event that we would organize. So yesterday, I joined a lot of groups, around 5,000, and I joined groups that have around 7,000 members. And then there, I cross-posted there. So it's posted on our page, but I shared on groups like that. And we were able to get a lot of registration right now. Yesterday, it was just around 40 people from the academe, from the industry, those people who are really into farming. But now we're able to reach 120, and we're expecting it to increase, of course, in the next succeeding days before Friday. So that's how we usually drive traffic. Everyone is part of the marketing team. That's what I would say. Everyone from the organization make use of our social media, and make sure that everyone is also doing the engagement that is needed. All right. I hope I was able to answer your
Yes.
question, Ms.
Oh, yes, it was very informational. Okay, Dr. Andy, what can you say? Do we after this COVID, after this pandemic? Okay, so how are we going to put the confidence of the people back to attending seminars, webinars, face to face? Okay, so how can we build the confidence back? Because after this, there will still be some questions that may arise, like will it be safe to travel? Okay, so how can we secure, how can we put the confidence back to these people?
Yeah, the biggest challenge is there's fear. People are afraid, and they have a right to be afraid. It's been a very difficult year for everyone. And so I think to build confidence back, I think policies and procedures have to be in place and followed by those people who are operating. When you go, let's pick two different restaurants. When you go into one restaurant, they check your temperature when you walk in. They make sure everybody in the place has a mask. You see somebody actually spraying stuff and wiping the tables down. You see the windows are open, the fans are blowing, all those things. And you go, this place is trying their best to make sure that it's safe. You go to another restaurant and they don't do any of those things. So which restaurant do you feel better? Well, the one that is trying their best. There's no guarantees, but you want those for places that are at least doing their best to provide safe premises. In my presentation, I talked about some of the changes in the exhibition area. Yes, better registration, more space, staggered admission. All of those things are efforts by an exhibition in order to provide a safe place to go. And if you can do that, then people will return. So the first convention you go to, and anyone, when you go to your next convention this year, conference, convention, big meeting, you're going to be looking for all of those things to happen. And if they don't do it, you'll never go back to that meeting or convention again. So it's very, very important for people to to put in place though, and even though some of it may seem silly, it's the same reason they have security at airports. They check your bag. You know, they look at you and they know you're not a bad person, but they have to check your bag anyway. You go through everybody goes through it. It's a way for you to feel comfortable going on to an airplane. The same thing is going to happen in an exhibition. And I keep looking at myself. I'm really red. I don't know if you noticed that. But see,
Yeah,
because for
a
me,
bit.
for you, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. For me, it's actually 1:00 in the morning now.
Oh.
And whatever lighting I use, because I'm in the U.S. right now, so I'm not in my office with my own lighting. So I don't know why I'm so red, but I tried my best. I don't have a bad sunburn, so I'm okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, Miss Cherry, do you have any other questions?
Just to add, Miss SJ, are
Yes.
we ready talaga? Are we ready? Because with our internet providers, because that's the main challenge right now, right? For those areas that doesn't have internet connections, are we really ready for online meetings like this?
I would say that we could do our best preparations. Of course, for the organizers, for the participants, we really can't expect them to really invest on like a good service provider. But for organizers, we really have to remember that we have decreased all the costs, sorry, with operational costs. We have decreased a lot of operational expense. But right now, we have to allocate the cost that we're able to save from other operational expense to our to better our service provider. Right now in DTI, we're also creating like a space where people could do like webinar pods, because we noticed that people who would like conduct webinars simultaneously, like for example Miss Cherry would conduct webinar, and we don't want to be in the same room, right? Even though like technically we're in a different meeting, but because we are somehow we feel awkward about it.
Overlapping.
Yeah, overlapping as well. So what we did is we actually proposed to create like a space where people could like it would be like a background of green screen all over, and then there would be like divisions and partitions, so that we could save with the air condition expenses and the electricity. So we are actually creating like a different kind of space right now with digital. But I think Miss Cherry, that we can't say that we're really ready for it, but we can do all our best preparations. And right now, as I have mentioned earlier, I actually transitioned to a different service provider for the internet, because with me, I really have to allocate a fund for this if I would be doing this for my line of business.
Okay, thank you very much again.
You know, I think the one comment I have for that is everybody today has a smartphone. Everybody watches YouTube. Everybody watches Facebook. They can do it if they want to. But I think there's so much competition for people's time on social media and on technology that it's tough to get in. The one comment I mentioned to Cherry from her last question is last year when the pandemic started, myself and two other colleagues, we started a weekly webinar. We didn't know what we were doing the first week, but we learned, we got better and better every week. Consistency is one way to develop a following. We started with a couple hundred students in the beginning. By the end of the year, we had over 7,000 on our email list. Not everybody came every week, but we had a wide range of students that came. And one thing why would they go is you have to give them something of value. And SJ mentioned how she gives a certificate. That's great. That shows, but in our case, we got the certificates approved by different universities, so the student could take that certificate back to their school and get credit in their class or course. So that was an added value.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pilos. Lastly, may we now call on Ms. Marinel Bincal for her questions to our guest speakers.
Well, basically, I only have one question for Ms. SJ. And of course, Feel free and welcome, Dr. Andy, if you have something to share or probably some suggestions that might benefit for everybody's learning and sharing for this afternoon. And because I think I have a few questions and concern has been already asked by Ms. Evangeline, am I saying it correctly? And Miss Cherry. So basically, having the idea that mice industry seems to go with the new normal, which is that becomes digital and hybrid, right? And of course, challenges is a lot, and we all know that. Online hybrid events needs an amount of preparation as physical ones, but of course, clients are less willing to pay some price. We have to be practical on that. And basically, my question goes this way. Do you have any advice on how to keep audience and clients to engage more and participate on any virtual hybrid events or any functions, let's say, using the online platform nowadays? And of course, using the marketing, well advised and well used marketing channels that you use, most especially you, Miss SJ, because you've been in the industry for hosting and handling events online virtually for a very long time. And of course, discussing about the mice in general by Dr. Andy. So that will be my question, how we can or probably keep our audience and clients to participate more on engagement like this.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Angel.
Yeah,
All right,
my
so
nickname.
your nickname there is Angel. All right.
Yes.
So actually with what I've been doing, because you've mentioned a hybrid. So with
Yeah.
hybrid events, I have mentioned earlier that we actually initially planned to conduct an event on site, but then I noticed that a lot of people are still in fear, and only
Yes.
people would register for like an on-site event, but a lot of people would be willing somehow to engage in online event. But the challenge is with people joining the online event, I agree with you that they tend to be a lot of passive viewers, or a lot of people would multitask, and we
Yes.
really don't like that. Like people would cook while watching, and then people would
Yeah.
turn off their camera. I would experience a lot of that. So I would say that it is really on the hands of the organizer to set the kind of dynamic that we long for. So I have mentioned earlier that with what we did for that particular hybrid event that we conducted last time, on site, of course, it's a different set of instruction.
Yeah.
It's a different set of instruction, but I have advised the host and me as a speaker to uh, also address the people watching online. So of course, people who are on site, of course, you greet them like, I'd like to thank everyone who made time for our on-site for our event here. I love the energy that you're giving me right now. But for those people who are watching online, we have to acknowledge both of them if we're doing hybrid event, because
Yes.
sometimes people, if we're doing things like hybrid event, people sometimes tend to forget that people are watching online, and we just
Yeah.
focus on the people who are there. So of course that would decrease the engagement of people watching online, right? So
Yeah.
what I would normally do is like I would use a phone. Like if I'm the speaker, I would use my phone. If it's a hybrid event, Angel, so I would acknowledge people who are watching who are there with me on site. But then I would also like ask questions like, people who are watching online, if I may ask, you're watching from, please type in the comment section or use this particular emoji if you're here with me. And then I would like read it, like from
Understand.
there, like, yes. So I would read that, oh, okay, Dr. Andy watching from US, oh, that's nice, I'd like to
Yeah.
how are you right now, right? So I would really be engaged with people who are watching from online. And then I would actually talk to my team. That's what I did. I talked to my team. Like, of course, there are people that I assigned on site, and there are people that I assigned online. And then for the people that I assigned online, I gave them like specific instruction. Make sure to greet everyone, like really greet everyone there, and
Yeah.
like elicit reaction. Like for example, I go like this how please type in amen, all right, or please type in all right, doing great. So people would be, everyone, you have to elicit reaction from the online crowd. Like if you're with me, if you're really with me, use this
Yeah.
emoji. We have to somehow do a lot of gimmicks online. Like we have
Yeah.
to really because they are distracted and might be mindful that they are in the comforts of their home. So you
Yes.
really have to, for the organizer, you really have to be extra in terms of
Effort.
eliciting, yes, eliciting reaction and engagement. But if you're able to successfully do that, I would say that as Dr. Andy has mentioned, you would drive more people to come back to your event,
Yeah.
because people would always come to the event for the experience. They
Yes.
if it's something that they could just watch later, as I have mentioned earlier, then that means that you're not able to create the experience. They were not able to feel like I am there with you. So you really have
Yes.
to give them the experience, appeal to the sounds, to the videos. I like that Dr. Andy actually incorporated a video earlier, because
Yeah.
I
It was
believe that
nice.
also stimulates the watcher, like, oh, okay, something is happening, instead of like it's being like full of just talking and talking and talking. All
Yes.
right, that's it.
Yeah, that will be very additional inputs for everybody who will be conducting their webinars or events online, hybrid, or Zoom meetings, something like that. But basically, it's the more one of the challenge that I'm facing personally, because I'm currently handling Cambodia's government development project events. So one of the projects that I have is virtually initiated. And of course, the industry nowadays, pretty much in general as a whole, even other countries is also struggling to how can they encourage people, not only in their country, but other countries people as well, to be involved in any particular that will contribute and give them a benefit on know what's the reality currently nowadays, and to get idea how to move on and to have a kind of support among the others who are in there already, like Dr. Andy, let's say, has been in the industry for so very long time. So I really learned a lot from presentations. I'm really inspired of what you have done, and it's really good to hear from you guys. Or maybe Dr. Andy have something to say.
Actually, to support SJ, it's very difficult to get the engagement. Everybody knows. Well, some of the things we tried everything in the past year. If you know the topic in advance, we would invite specific people to send a video question. So if they would send a video to us with a question, and then they knew they were going to be on the program, and then they would tell their friends that they were going to be on the program. So everybody would go watch just to see them do their video question. We also did some contests where, okay, next week we're going to give a contest, on who's going to create the best background, who's going to do, that kind of stuff. Sometimes fun, but then it actually allows people to participate, and you reward them whatever way you can. But the key thing is really to have quality speakers who are prepared, who they want to hear from. When the cruise industry was dying last year, we had an expert in the cruise industry. That was one of our most popular ones. When we had a speaker from Nepal talking about Mount Everest, what's happening during the pandemic. Very interesting kind of topics. So really, making the topics as interesting as you can, and making it, again, showing a couple of videos, playing some music. You try it all in order to have people remember that experience. So SJ is exactly right on creating an experience for your attendees.
Cool. I think that will be all from me. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you for having me here.
Indeed, our resource speakers have mastered their crafts in the tourism and hospitality industry. At this time, we have come to the part of the program where we congruously recognize our resource speakers and reactors through the giving of tokens and certificates of appreciation. Let us now award the certificates of recognition to our distinguished speakers. So allow me to read the citation. Philippine Women's University School of Hospitality Management awards this certificate of appreciation to for being a guest speaker in the webinar series entitled Tourism and Hospitality Lecture Series, Reconditioning the Industry's Practices Towards the Better Normal, on June 26, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. via Zoom at the Philippine Women's University Manila. Signed, Dr. Cristina N. Caluza, Professor, Dr. Jocelyn R. Sardenia, Professor, and of course, Dr. Efraimwell Jose Abellana, the Dean of the School of Hospitality Management. So we give the certificate to Dr. Andy Nazareshu. Dr. Andy, thank you so much for being with us. And also the same certificate is given to Ms. Stephanie Relucio. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us. Also, we would like to extend our gratitude to our three panel reactors. For the first set, Dr. Timbang, Ms. Bingkal, and of course, Ms. Pilos. Thank you so much. Moving right along, the primary objective of our second series for this afternoon session is to have a grasp on corporate social responsibility concepts as major driving forces in the hospitality and tourism industry road to success in COVID-19 era. Our third resource speaker, who will talk about CSR, have previously been engaged in key leadership roles for brands such as Fab Foods Inc. as a Vice President for Operations, where he oversees the general operations, business conceptualization, and development outsource team, audit, purchasing, and human resources of the business. Currently, he manages the expansion of Southwest Tour Boracay Incorporated as a brand, establishing it as a recognizable nationwide tourist logistic company and leading the sales department team for conceptualization to execution in direct coordination with the CEO. Southwest Tours Boracay Incorporated is the pioneer tourist transport service company in the Philippines, serving the Paradise Island of Boracay. At present, he oversees the development of Southwest Tours Boracay Incorporated as its Sales and Marketing Director. Please welcome our third resource speaker, Mr. Chester Alfaro.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Miss Jamie said, I'm Chester. I'm representing on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Cedric Sasson. I handle the sales and marketing department of Southwest Tours Boracay Incorporated. Thank you for inviting us, no? And it's an honor to be here this afternoon. To give you a brief background of what we do, we are the pioneer tourist transport service company in the Philippines, serving the Paradise Island of Boracay. So we are popularly known under the brand name of Southwest Tours. We started in 1991. So we offer mostly land and sea transfers to local and foreign tourists from the moment they step foot at the Calibo International Airport or the Caticlan Airport to the time they feel Boracay's powder white sand between their toes. So we also develop and market tours and activities for other major destinations in Western Visayas, including Iloilo City, Rojas City in Capiz, Calibo in Aklan, San Jose in Antique, Guimaras, Bacolod, and Negros. We also expanded to Cebu and Bohol just 2 years ago. So our fleet includes buses, minibuses, coasters, vans, taxis, and speedboats, you name it. So we are a proud accredited by the Philippine Department of Tourism. We're also registered with the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board and a proud member of the Philippine Tour Operators Association and an allied member of the Philippine Travel Agency Association. So I'm here this afternoon to discuss crafting sustainable corporate social responsibilities, strategies in our industry during this new normal and for better normal in the near future. So what I would present today is what we experienced for the past since last year. Before I start, I would like to share this quote from Warren Buffett. He said, "It takes 20 years to build a reputation, but it only takes 5 minutes to ruin it." So, as true as it can get, our corporate social responsibilities towards our tourists, our customers, suppliers, shareholders, our government, and its attached regulatory department our community and its environment, our dear employees, their welfare, and their respective families play a very important role in our growth, our brand value, and our very own existence. Without a proper CSR execution and maintaining our brand for more than 25 years in this industry, our company won't be here, or rather, won't be who we are today. So, what is CSR? So, as you can see in the slide, CSR is very straightforward. As we normally discuss it during our internal meetings, we often describe it as a self-regulating business model that helps us to be accountable for our stakeholders and the public. In every important decision we make, we always take into consideration the impact if it's aligned with our CSR values. So what I'm showing you here for the next slides are some of the um, things that we did for the past year until now. So during the ECQ in the entire Philippines, we actually served a public utility bus in Calibo, Aklan. And this is part of since Ceres liner was cannot operate during that time, so public transportation within Aklan was stopped. So LTFRB asked us to continue its operation for I think it lasted for 2 to 3 months. So we actually extended our help for the commute riding public. We also, in partnership with DOT, we help our flight, we help their sweeper flights for ground transportation for the stranded tourists. So we were able to accommodate almost 1,800 stranded tourists all over Panay region during that time. We also partner up with OWA and cater all LSI and OFW to their homes. And our number count was almost 5,000 um, OFW and LSI. Returned to their homes like in Iloilo City, Bacolod, and in Aklan. We also provided free shuttle in Iloilo during ECQ for health workers and in Aklan. So we give out during that time there were shifting schedules for health workers in the morning and in the evening, and we usually make 4 routes in the morning and 4 routes in the evening to pick up these health workers like doctors and nurses from their homes going to the hospitals and back and forth. We did it for free in partnership with the LGU. As part as also we did a community service to the people of Mambusao, giving them shuttles for 2 weeks. Same thing, we also launched a project of libreng sakay, both in municipality of Kalinog and Calibo. We also did a sponsored trip in partnership with DOT for stranded tourists in Antique, Rojas in Capiz. And also, we donated face shields to hospitals with the resources that we have. Since at that time, if you remember last year, the only requirement for us to go out is to wear face mask. But I think Q3 last year, the government also required us to wear face shields. So there was a less supply at the time, and we tried to help speed up the supply. We also was able to cater 177 repatriated overseas Filipino workers stranded in Manila for nearly 2 months, and they arrived in Iloilo City. And we did this in partnership with LGU and To Go. We also partnered up with Star 8, and then we also did a Libreng Sakay program at Panglao, Bohol. And in Region 6, we partnered up with LTO. We gave free shuttle service for essential workers. It lasted for 6 months in Iloilo City. And of course, for Boracay, we partner up with dive gurus and we conduct cleanup drive in Boracay Island up to this day. So every once a month, every first Friday of the month, as much possible, we try to conduct this activity. We also support local festivals and pageants even during pandemic, no? For any of their transportation needs to still promote art and culture in our area. So in this sample, we did it in Calibo. So before the COVID-19 pandemic, as part of our mission, we always want first to give the best value for our customers, give the proper tools and training to our employees, and be a standard leader in our segment by always adhering to standard protocols and safety, self-sustaining operation with low gas emission, impact on the environment. Most of our new assets unit are Euro 4 compliant. We align it with the direction of DNR during the Boracay Rehabilitation Program. We always want to ensure that all our units have insurance coverage and they are updated. May it be a passenger insurance and or a third-party liability insurances. Things change when the recent pandemic happens, no? And here are our new strategies for the new normal. So we totally redesigned our safety guidelines and standard protocols in our operations for the sole purpose of not compromising the safety both of our customers and our frontline employees. So we did this signages. So as you can see here, these are just some of the sample signs and reminders that we install in all of our units, vehicles, storefronts, and office premises. The objective of these reminders is to constantly remind our customers and employees to observe the minimum health standards protocols by DOH. We also do thermal gun scanning prior boarding to our vehicles and entering to our office or storefront premises. We align ourselves in the flowchart process from our respective LGUs where we are operating and consistently following through their guidelines. We also abide by the 50% capacity restriction from DOTR and the operating guidelines from DOT. All of these by which we update our code of conducts internally to align ourselves with all of these new protocols. So the previous code of conducts internally we revise it right away so that if there's um, employees that won't adhere or abide to these protocols would be sanctioned accordingly. Number two, employee assistance. As you know, tourism is considered non-essential, and our industry is heavily affected by all lockdown restrictions imposed by our government, meaning to say people cannot travel for leisure, and our drivers, coordinators, admin, customer service, accounting staff, to name a few, were put on forced leave. Some were laid off and some were retrenched as the company can no longer sustain the payroll without consistent revenue. With this, our CEO still gave out humanitarian support by giving assistance in terms of food package. We did this for the month last year during Q2 and Q3. Our HR department also made a referral program to those who were displaced and recommend a new opportunity outside of our industry. Actually, on my direct subordinates, three of them are already working in Iloilo for a BPO company. So our HR really tried their best to make a referral program to other industries that we are connected with. We also coordinate with local DOH branch to give mental seminar training to those who are in need. Existing employees that are retained, especially those who are working in the front line, sample is our drivers, they were given a crisis management training, random swab test every month, and staff house quarantine facility if needed so. Our company also applied for all government financial assistance there is. One example is through the Camp by Dole and SSS. With this, we encourage our employee and their family to start a small business to keep afloat. For our on-call employees, we allow dual jobs. So for example, one of my managers works at Katiklan Jetty Port in the morning, and she worked a tech online class for Korean students in the evening. The company really emphasizes optimism and encourage resiliency to all of us. And of course, the safety of our employees is our utmost priority. All personal protective equipment, such as protective suit, foot bath, mattings, are required prior to operating our transaction. We treat face mask, face shields, and gloves as part of our product inclusions, and it's non-negotiable when it comes to implementing them during our operation. Hence, all of these added protections are free of charge to our employees when needed. As you can see, this is the sample. We dis we also disinfect everything on a consistent basis with monitoring forms from our fleet vehicles, office space, and all the way even our garage. And we also supply alcohol and other disinfectant to all our branches. As mentioned earlier, we abide by all DOTR and DOT operating guidelines when it comes to tourist service transactions. So aside from the barriers, we also really strictly implement the 50% capacity in every units that we have. So for example, if for sedans, we only allow 2 passenger. For vans, we only allow 5 to 7 passenger, and etc. So we put markings like this so that to not to discourage um, or rather to encourage people to practice social distancing, because I know, when tourists come to Boracay or when they go to vacation, they tend to forget that there's still a pandemic. So we try our best to really instill these standard protocols and have our ground staff to constantly remind them when they are at our premise. We're also grateful that we have our own IT department, and internally we develop our own health declaration and contact tracing system. So with this, if there's cases, we can always trace backward within 24 hours, um, from the from client to drivers to employees that has a close contact, and we put them on self isolation right away. Um, just to cite a sample, last year during December, during holidays, one of the tourists got positive in Boracay Island. So all of our 12 drivers who were on duty were placed quarantined. So I think for the better normal, we really have to prepare this kind of scenarios and have our own manpower or employees pool to readily replaced. And you always have to have option A, option B, all the way to option C, set of manpower that can interchange. Kasi when you isolate your people, your operation cannot stop. Also, we with the reduced workforce, or rather with the we also offer flexible payment terms to our business to business clients. So we adopt the Bayanihan Act law and give flexible payment terms so that they can also survive. At the end of the day, on paper, our contract says the word partnership. And in every partnership, we should be more understanding and act upon accordingly. Sample is when we have a, a travel agency client that has backlogs payment before. So we don't really bombard them with pending invoices or billings because we understand the tourism industry is really on standstill right now. So we give them a schemes where they can slowly pay it as part of our assistance to our supplier, to our merchants as well. So with the reduced workforce, those who are retained and are actually on skeletal schedule, um, we actually put them on skeletal schedule rather to observe social distancing in our work areas. Our company develops a culture of multitasking and generalism, meaning to say before, if you only work, especially for like, let's say treasury department, you also need to learn how to answer customer calls as well. So another example is our drivers are the ones who also act as a porter and guest assistants on ground. So we with for the past few months where Boracay was still open, we really instilled to our employees that multitasking is the key. So it won't be as like before during the old ways that if your job is only this, you can only do this. So right now we are really promoting multitasking, especially when we are having a skeletal workforce. And also we are maximizing um, our resources on functional areas to cover up expenses and costs of other dormants. So, for example, most of our revenue before is coming from Boracay Island for tourism. During the pandemic, when the pandemic hits, we really try to adapt on the new business model, like other industry did. No, so for transportation, most of our units are deployed right now for employee shuttles, for charter trips, for essential bookings. All of these are non-tourism related activities, and even car hire rentals for long term. So we try to maximize what opportunity it may come so that we can still offer employment to our drivers or our employees, and our suppliers would still continually have the business continuation that they expect from us. The shift of area coverage transaction also happened. Most of our fleet from Boracay was pulled out and deployed in Iloilo City and Cebu, where most essential companies are still operating. Lastly, our company was forced to accelerate our digital transformation. May it be client presentation to internal meetings, we always do it virtually. Our product offerings are all on board online with different booking platforms such as Klook, Traveloka, KK Guide to the Philippines. Some of our marketing efforts are to educate public on safety and the new normal procedures when coming in and out of Boracay Island. So in summary, we have created these commitment pillars that will serve as a guiding principle moving forward. These are as follows. The attitude to hygiene is non-negotiable. Contactless everything. Social but without the crowding. Care as the new service and value as the base currency. So we also recreate our safety guidelines and commitment. So you can just message our Facebook page on Southwest Stores to ask for a detailed copy in terms of this. Once again, business for us in terms of CSR, business is not always about making money. Sometimes it's about our love for our country, love for the people who are working for us, love for our customers to give them the best of ourselves, respect for our competitors in our business, but above all, love for our creator.
Thank you so much, Sir Chester, for sharing with us the CSR practices of Southwest Tours. Indeed, we take care of our employees' needs and they will take care of the rest. Let us all give him a warm round of virtual applause. Moving on, we will now proceed with the presentation of our fourth resource speaker. She will be postulating on CSR, giving in 2020, what we've learned and what's next. Our fourth and last speaker has been with the Metro Pacific Group since 1993 and has over 21 years of experience heading Metro Pacific Investment Corporation, Public and Media Relations, Corporate Communications, Advertising, and Corporate Social Responsibility.
Good afternoon and hello everyone. My special thanks to the Philippine Women's University School of Hospitality Management, particularly to its cluster dean, Dr. Eframuel Jose Abellana, and its organizing chairman, Irvin Villaseran, for this opportunity. I am Melody Del Rosario, president of Metro Pacific Investments Foundation, and along with me is my team, Ralph Balmaceda, Maven Panganiban, and Magic Bautista. We are pleased to share how we are taking steps towards more meaningful community engagements in the new normal. In 2006, the spirit of volunteerism was already rife with employees wanting to share our blessings to children who are terminally ill, and the company matching the amount raised each year. Our philanthropy went to good causes such as medical assistance, educational scholarships, and sports, including other cleanups. But seeing how our company was able to acquire significant investments in Maynilad and Lex Meralco and hospitals, such as Makati Medical Center and Davao Doctors, to name a few, MPIC became poised to do well by doing good. Over the years, we focused on three main pillars that would create significant impacts on our corporate social responsibility initiatives. And these are on education, economic empowerment, calamity response, and the environment. Our country, rich in natural resources and known for its natural tourist attractions, is also sadly located in the Ring of Fire. We often suffer from a number of deadly typhoons, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and other natural disasters. From among these pillars, our advocacy on the environment has been and still is now the biggest investment MPIC has allocated. Our businesses through Meralco, Maynilad, and toll roads are all based on natural assets, and we have the responsibility to see to its sustainability. Volunteerism was already evident with the active participation of the MVP Group since the very start of Shoritop, our environmental program. It has naturally been intrinsic in the DNA of our environmental programs with the volunteers of the MVP Group who are both diverse and non-diverse. Every year, they devote one of their weekends in heightening environmental awareness from each of our coastal community partners, becoming immersed in tourism as well. Economic contribution for every partner location can be measured through our fare and hotel accommodation, our requirements, and local tourism activities. Over the years, this has been our footprint with 11 partner sites across the Philippines: Alaminos, Pangasinan, Del Carmen in Siargao, Surigao del Norte, Puerto Galera in Oriental Mindoro, Medina, Misamis Oriental, Cordova in Cebu, Mabini in Batangas, Subic, Zambales, and Bohol. And our latest partner is in Marinduque. I am glad that more than 7 years ago, we have naturally streamlined our efforts under Tulong Kapatid or Brotherly Help, the CSR alliance of foundations and companies under Manuel V. Pangilinan. Tulong Kapatid strives to augment the government's efforts, especially during calamities and disasters. We also reach out to the most vulnerable sectors of our society, the senior citizens, persons with disabilities, pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, and the indigenous minorities. We have worked together with the armed forces, Philippine National Police, and other government agencies to help us deliver our relief items to far-flung places. Through this alliance, our collective response to disasters and the COVID-19 pandemic have created a bigger impact by reaching more communities in need. 2020 has greatly affected the hospitality and tourism sector. It became a time of anxiety and uncertainty and left us most thinking, where do we go from here? With the situation brought upon by the times, we reevaluated our CSR focus. We Filipinos have a custom called bayanihan. It is derived from the Tagalog word bayani, meaning town or nation. Bayani means patriot or the person who has suffered most for the common good. Bayanihan is mutual help and concern for fellow men and has become a Filipino way of life. This same spirit of bayanihan is being manifested everywhere. It has transformed into a wave of collaborative efforts and partnerships between government, private sectors, religious and medical institutions, and other organizations. And so, from corporate social responsibility, we have redefined it into collaborative social response. In 2020, we zeroed in on three main sectors: disaster response, sustainability, and capacity building. In 2019, as it closed with the record of 20 typhoons passing the country, we then opened 2020 indeed with a bang when Taal volcano erupted in January. Everyone is, I'm sure, certain how beautiful Taal volcano is, where tourists come from all over the world. It is also one of the most active and dangerous volcanoes in the Philippines, as it spewed corrosive ash, taking lives, damaging properties, and destroying agriculture. And with news breaking out about the Al volcano's eruption, we organized a call for donations and a relief support program for the victims. Initially, we intended to distribute our donations to certain evacuation sites. However, upon seeing the surplus of generosity in this area, we redirected our aid to barangays who have received little or no assistance. We mobilized resources to distribute blankets, masks, shirts, food, and other water filters to over 1,000 affected residents in Barangay Poblacion, Majuben, San Jose, and Anilao East in Mabini, Batangas. We also provided quality medical consultations to residents through the Makati Medical Center doctors and healthcare staff. In March 2020, the world was introduced to a new and unprecedented type of disaster, the COVID-19 pandemic. Not only did it bring businesses and the whole world to a standstill, companies and small businesses alike were shutting down. Millions lost their jobs and sources of livelihood, and million others lost their lives or their loved ones. Above everything, it was a medical pandemic that endangered millions of lives. At the forefront of defense were doctors, nurses, and other medical frontliners who put their own lives at risk to fight against the virus. At the onset, there was an overwhelming demand for personal protective equipment across hospitals. The demand was increasing and the supplies were rapidly depleting. MPIF immediately responded to augment the resources of hospitals, both within and outside of Metro Pacific's hospital networks, and provided over 5,000 PPEs to over 14 institutions. With our key collaborators, we activated a provincial-wide relief pack distribution to reach those who have received little to no social amelioration from the government and other organizations. We help them cope with the impact of COVID-19 pandemic by providing basic needs such as food, personal care items as well. MPIF delivered more than 3,700 relief packs to over 18 communities, prioritizing displaced tourism workers in the province of Batangas. We provided vitamins and care packages to local boat and dive operators, hotel and resort staffs, as well as massage therapists whose livelihoods were all gravely affected by the lack of tourists in the area. During the holiday season, the MVP Group had its Tuloy Pa Rin ang Pasko program. MPIF provided Noche Buena packs to boatmen, dive personnel, including Shory Tops, mangrove eco guides, and marine guardians located in our various partner areas. In the latter part of 2020, the successive onslaught of typhoons hit the country, leaving behind billions of pesos in damages, millions of families losing their homes, their livelihoods, and their loved ones. MPIF, with Tulong Kapatid, once again provided relief assistance to boatmen's fishermen's in Mabini, Batangas. Aid was also provided to members of the Dumagat community in Infanta and General Nakar, Quezon. The pandemic relief efforts were able to help several families cope with the adverse effects of the quarantine. However, we wanted to create a program that would have a longer lasting impact on their lives. Guided by the old saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you will feed him for a lifetime, we came up with Bayan Tanim. Bayan Tanim forms the third phase of MPIF's COVID-19 response strategy. The initiative taps the potential of small-scale gardening to help disadvantaged communities cope with the impacts of the pandemic, providing them with resources to cultivate food sustainably. It was designed to distribute planting crates containing essentials such as seeds, seedlings, fertilizer, and potting mix. Through Bayan beneficiaries can become self-sufficient with food, and thereby they're able to provide they're able to improve the food security in the long term. To reach more communities and distribute more crates, MPIF partnered with the Department of Agriculture, Agrea, First Pacific Company Limited, Light Rail Manila Corporation, and Duran Farms. As of May 2021, a total of 1,546 Bayan crates have already been distributed. Shoritop, MPIF's flagship program in the environment, was abruptly put on pause when the pandemic hit. However, the foundation's support to its partner communities remained unwavering. We had to forego our usual big events and pursue efforts that still provided them with the needed help during these trying times. Through our economic empowerment programs, the Mangrove Eco Guides, and the Marine Protection, Inspection, and Conservation Guardians, local community members are equipped with appropriate knowledge and skills as well as compensation for their work. Currently, we have 10 mangrove eco guides in our three centers across the country: two in Alaminos, Pangasinan for Luzon, four in Del Carmen, Siargao for Mindanao, and four in Cordova, Cebu for Visayas. We have 36 MPIC guardians or marine guardians, 27 in Medina, Misamis Oriental, and 9 in Puerto Galera, Oriental Mindoro. In January of this year, we conducted the first ever Mangrove Eco Guide virtual training via an online platform. Together with those in Cordova, Cebu, we also involved the Eco Guides from Alaminos and Del Carmen. This created a collaborative and helpful Eco Guide community through our new digital space. In early 2021, we also conducted sustainability audits for our marine protection, inspection, and conservation guardians in Medina and Puerto Galera. This weekend session provided an opportunity for them to convey and share their challenges, needs, and experiences. It also harnessed their underwater scuba diving and monitoring skills. It also conducted a comprehensive sustainable assessment to better gauge the program's current situation and its impact to date. The assessment included a thorough questionnaire on the status of marine pollution, illegal fishing, fish catch quantity, and appraised the MPIC or Marine Guardians' fulfillment of their day-to-day responsibilities. A corresponding evaluation on the involvement of barangay officials and other community members was also key in determining the sustainability of the program in Medina. To ensure the continuity of their tasks to protect the environment, we provided their allowances, vitamins, and logbooks. It was a priority for us to lessen their worries of providing food for their families. We wanted to ensure that they were cared for, and since they are also considered our frontliners. The pandemic has presented us with new challenges, primarily the additional health and safety protocols in place. The MBP Group partnered with the Department of Health to implement their Bida Solution initiative. The Bida protocols are applied in each of our programs to ensure the safety of all. B for bawal ang walang mask, I, isanitize ang mga kamay, D, dumistansya ng 1 metro, A, alamin ang tamang impormasyon. Social media has also been an avenue to emphasize the work we're doing and generate awareness on the current situation. We want to encourage more people to help in any way they can. We have also made use of social media for donations, as connecting with partners and beneficiaries as more convenient and accessible because of the various digital platforms. With the help of the private sector, we foresee a stronger collaborative social response in partnership with government, which will provide as much aid and assistance as possible whenever we can and in any way we can. In harnessing collaboration, it is important to remember that communication is the key. We need to convey or understand if people have a shared purpose and if we need to set expectations and to be able to manage them well. We need to also consider the brand or the company. Is it a brand or a company that is respected and trusted? And we also have to be creative in our thinking. We need to explore available tools, online services, transactions, and deliveries, technologies like video conferencing. And lastly, it is important that we are able to combine capabilities, explore our networks, try to find out sources for materials, and also available services. With our refocused thrust towards collaborative social response, we have also developed our initiatives to fit the needs of our community beneficiaries, particularly those in the tourism sector. We intend to engage them in alternative livelihood programs, such as providing them with sewing machines, bikes, and pocket Wi Fi's to give them the means to start small online businesses. In these uncertain times, the foundation is changing its strategy to help small players in the tourism industry. Aside from this, we also plan to conduct virtual tours with our mangrove centers and surrounding tourist attractions to promote ecotourism while most of us are still unable to travel. These virtual tours not only generate awareness, but also allow our eco guides to further develop their own skills. So, in closing, as we heal the world, we should also thrive with the changes around us because change strengthens resilience. The spirit of Bayanihan, the same spirit that extends a hand whenever we fall, prospers more amidst adversity. To end this is a quote from our chairman, Manuel V. Pangilinan. I hope that years from today we can be proud of ourselves for serving our customers, our shareholders, and thousands of families who depend on us for their future. You are bearers of torches that give light to the dark corners of our country. Thank you for your time and stay safe.
Let us all give her a warm round of virtual applause. Thank you so much, Ms. Melody Del Rosario, for sharing with us the CSR pillars of Metro Pacific Investments Foundation. This surely could be the basis for CSR programs of other organizations aligned with the current needs of the Filipinos. After all the knowledge we have been fed and have digested today, we now come to our second part of panel discussion. Allow me to introduce to you our second set of panel reactors, starting off with our first panel reactor. Our first panel of reactor has been in the teaching profession for the last 14 years at different grade institutions and also experienced working in the industry as part of front office department and F&B department. At present, she is an assistant professor in Tourism and Hospitality Management Department of Capiz State University, Sigma Campus. She is a food and beverage NC2 passer and also a civil service eligible, a trainer of hospitality technology courseware Micros Opera Property Management System since November 2009. She is an active member of COREP and ARMY and a board member of State Universities and Colleges Association of Hospitality and Tourism Educators of the Philippines, or the SUCATEP. It is with great honor to welcome our first panel of reactor, Professor Lizelle Seraspe Alfonso. Moving on, our second panel of reactor is currently the Dean of the College of Tourism and Hospitality Management at University of Batangas, Batangas Campus since October 2016. She graduated with Masters in Business Management, major in Hospitality Management at St. Paul's University, Manila, last September 2007. And she got her Doctor of Business Management, major in Hospitality Management at Philippine Women's University last October 2012. She also earned her Diploma in Leadership and Management at Australian Skills Institute last November 2015. She won second runner-up in the national search for the 2016 Idol ng TESDA for the Wage Employed category last September 22, 2016. She was also awarded as the 2012 Most Outstanding TESDA Trainer for Private Institution. Moreover, she also finished the course for National Master Trainer Assessor for Food and Beverage Services Division last May 2015. She also is a PACUCOA accreditor and TESDA trainer and assessor for tourism sector. She holds title of Certified Hospitality Professional, and currently she is the treasurer of COREP National. Please welcome our second panel reactor, Dr. Francia Yvette A. Magpantay. Moving on with our third and last panel reactor, she is a third-year Bachelor of Science in Tourism Management student at University of Batangas Main Campus, and currently the Vice President of Philippine Rescue Volunteers Association, Mabini Chapter. Moreover, she is the Miss Asian International Philippines 2020-2021 and the I Give Hope Movement Ambassador. She won first place in the recently concluded Philippine Intercollegiate Tourism Olympics in Flight Attendance Showmanship category. She is also an advocate of volunteerism, advocate of plastic-free ocean, and greener environment, and her hobby is scuba diving. Please welcome our third panel reactor, Ms. Jean Mendoza Bueno. To begin with our panel discussion, may we now call on Ms. Lizelle Seraspe Alfonso.
I would like also to greet the two resource speakers that we have, Ma'am Del Rosario and Sir Chester. Good afternoon, ma'am. Hope all is well. So I will going to address my first question to our two speakers. Okay. As we all know that tourism industry is one of the hardly hit industry. As we all know also that travel is one of the basic activities that we do before pandemic strikes, made in the form of land, sea, and air travel. But because of travel restrictions, the operations of the industry ceased and book travels and vacations had been canceled. And because of that, almost all of the tourism related establishments forced to close and labor forces that they have were displaced and ended up unemployed. So in your respective companies, how do you handle your CSR activities during this time of pandemic, considering financial challenges that almost all of the companies are facing now?
May I answer the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so hello, Dr. Lisel. Thank you for your question. At the start of the year, we have already allocated certain budgets for most of our advocacies, mainly in CSR. So this budget has given us the opportunity to reassess our plans and at the same time adjust and on how to respond to the challenges we are facing. So we just continued on with supporting all our partner communities in terms of the programs that we have. Because as you know, their main role is to really protect the environment. And with the natural resources that we have, it is very also important for us that they keep on doing their jobs. No? So aside from that, we also gave them support in terms of access to food. So that's why we also provided them with relief packs. And part of the plan, as I've mentioned, is also to provide them alternative livelihood. So with the help of the group, the Tulong Kapatid, and all the other CSR activities that we have from the foundations and other companies, the alternative livelihood, I think, is key in helping them right now, especially that tourism is on a standstill.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for that question, Dr. Lizelle. So, as you know, with the limited resources as well for Southwest, since the pandemic hit, we try to utilize of what we have. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have around 300 units of vehicles. So, in what way we can help that in terms of CSR? So, we did a libreng sakay service. We did partnership with different attached agencies of the government, to help us also with the fuel cost for the maintenance. But we provide the unit and the drivers. We have this on-call manpower that we can deploy for cleanup services. If the LGU called us for help and assistance, we can deploy our manpower. And of course, our utmost priority is to really try and help our displaced employees. No? Kasi we had 500 employees last year, and right now we're down to 80. So for all those displaced workers, we try to really have assistance on them in terms of referral programs, in terms of retraining for other industry. Our HR department really did their best in supporting them, especially during these trying times.
Thank you, Ms. Lizelle. Up next, may we welcome Dr. Francia Yvette Magpantay.
Yes, to the organizers and to Dean Prime, congratulations. And thank you for inviting me. To the speakers, congratulations for a very wonderful and very informative presentation. Okay, so as we all know, CSR is where companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations. In 2020, when the COVID-19 hits the whole world, companies considered whether their current CSR are still aligned with the 2020 corporate social responsibility trends. Since then, employees want to be involved in CSR, wherein listening, understanding, and accommodating the needs of employees is paramount in this time. Companies should take more responsibilities for community well-being. This is highlighted in the presentation of Ms. Del Rosario, the Bayanihan, wherein they demonstrated unity and cooperation to achieve the goals. My first question is for Ms. Del Rosario. So how does this program, the Bayanihan, engage and inspire your employees and customers?
Thanks, Dr. Francia. Um, Ever since the time when we started our foundation, the employees were the ones who are actually driving most of the financial needs that we require in order to implement most of our programs. So it wasn't hard for us. It's really part of the DNA for the employees' volunteerism efforts. And through Shore It Up, it expanded into a bigger sphere because everyone was really concerned with the environment. That's why we see the whole MVP group of companies, their employees, scuba divers, non-scuba divers coming in. And we go to a certain place, like for example, the one in Puerto Galera or the one we've had in Siargao. These are all tourist attractions. And it's very good that you are immersed with what the beautiful scenes you're seeing at that time, and for you to appreciate that everything that you do would have an impact on the natural resources that we have. So for them, we're on our 13th year, and every time we always see employees within the MVP group doing volunteerism. And that's about what, 150 to 200 people flying in, staying in different resorts, buying souvenirs, and taking part of tourism activities. So in a way, this also rebounds into economic contribution of the group to the different areas that we have. At the same time, let us not discount the fact that we are all digital natives, right? We are all with our phones, and everyone takes a photo, and everyone comes up with nice pictures, posts, and that in itself is something that helps to contribute promoting, no, these places that we have partnered with.
Okay, thank you, Miss Melody. Okay, we know that today and in the next 2 to 5 years, consumer attitudes were immediately shaped by the pandemic and the environment. Their focus now is global health crisis, physical, emotional, social, and financial challenges. People now are taking into consideration what is more important, the needs, rather than their wants. It is noticeable in the presentation of Ms. Del Rosario that their company allows employee volunteers who do yearly outreach since they started in 2006. That way, their company were able to involve their employees and at the same time connect with community. My last question will be for both of our speakers. What is your company's plan for 2021 and beyond as CSR is concerned? Yes, ma'am. Del Rosario, you may go first.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Francia. So as I've mentioned, our thrust is really on livelihood or alternative livelihood, because we want people to be more flexible and to take advantage of online selling. It's something that we want to present to them in terms of providing them with Wi-Fi's, pocket Wi-Fi's for online selling, bikes for their deliveries, and probably additional information or educational support for them to be able to come up with, for example, cooking as part of their options to online selling, probably reselling as well. So there will be a lot of options, and this is also one of the thrusts now that we're looking into. Of course, this is in partnership with our Smart and PLDT sister companies, who will be helping us execute this.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Sir,
Yeah.
Sir Chester.
Thank you for that question, Dr. Francia. So I think for this year and moving forward, there are two major focus for our CSR execution in our company. Number one, if you remember, there was a time that Boracay has a rehabilitation program. So on our end, our units there shall transition to a Euro 4 compliant units where emission is very low compared to 2 and 3 emissions. So we are at 60% at the time complete in terms of transitioning to a Euro 4 compliant vehicles. So in the next 2 to 3 years, we already actually transitioned most of our old units to a newer units that complied with the Boracay Rehabilitation Program, and of course to align with the Caticlan Airport, which owned by San Miguel, to really replace all the old units. And secondly, I agree with Ma'am Melody that alternative livelihood is really key especially in our industry, since you will have lockdown today and tomorrow you have a relaxed lockdowns, and then next week you might have another lockdowns. So really educating our employees and even their families to have, as mentioned earlier, even one of my managers is working in the morning, but at night she teaches online schooling for Korean students. Before we don't allow that, but right now we encourage it, so that there will be a fallback for our employees. Yeah, that's it. I hope I answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your expertise, Ma'am Melody and Sir Chester. And we all know that 2020 will forever be a year to remember, with plenty of highs and lows. 2021 are going to take a lot of initiatives and strategies from companies and their leadership teams, but all are necessary for true organizational CSR to success. So congratulations po to both of you for implementing a very good CSR. Thank you.
And of course, last but certainly not the least, may we now call on Ms. Jean Mendoza Bueno.
Everyone, good afternoon.
Hi,
It's
good afternoon.
such an honor to be part of this virtual event and of course to ask questions to our respective speakers. And thank you to everyone who's behind of this successful virtual event. And I'm very much engaged and interested in this topic. So here goes my question. This is for both of the speakers. So it's related to Dr. Alfonso's question earlier, but this will be in general. So I'm very much curious on how can a company maintain on its societal purpose in the face of such unrelenting uncertainty, or what is your motivation for bringing such activities in this time of pandemic?
Um, Maybe we could call on Sir Chester first for this time.
Okay. Miss Jan, thank you for that question. So during these uncertainty times, our inspiration really comes from, because our CEO, Mr. Cedric, created this since 1991. And I think the brand value we have in Panay region really lasted. I mean, it won't survive if he really didn't collaborate and cooperate with different private entities there, LGUs, and the national government. Our inspiration, he always tell us that business is not really about making money. At the end of the day, there's a social responsibilities that we do, especially to our employees and their families, to our suppliers, to even to our competitors. We always want to respect them, and we really believe if we promote CSR values toward our ecosystem, I think uh, and all the benchmark practices that all of our other competitors would do, I think the tourism industry would come back sooner. I think, as mentioned earlier from the resource speaker, we have this is a collaborative efforts that we have, especially in the tourism industry. Because when you go to Boracay, you would use an airlines, you would use a hotel, you would use a ground transportation. And of course, if airlines wouldn't cooperate in terms of safety standards, or hotels or even us wouldn't cooperate in terms of 50% capacity, you have to be thermal scan, you have to abide with the QR codes. Um, safe confidence in travel won't come back if uh, the ecosystem won't do an inclusive efforts. In terms of CSR, I think for all these segments in our industry would inspired by each other practices. So the inspiration is really there. It really comes from the people who works for us, and to continue their livelihood. And Boracay Island as itself is the national government really wants to rehabilitate it. So we want Boracay Island. We want our children to experience Boracay like in the 90s. So yeah, these inclusive efforts would really help.
Okay, so may we also hear from Miss Melody?
Thank you. I think we're thankful that our company is taking care of us and all the other employees. So we are well provided. We have stable jobs. We have not reduced any of the manpower in almost the companies that we have. And with that stability, with that steady jobs and salaries that we're getting, it is easier for us to focus no outside of the group, and with that, to go to people who are less fortunate than we are. That is why, as I've mentioned in the presentation, we really had to go out in the thickness, in the height of the pandemic. I was out in the field, and I'm thankful that I have not contacted COVID because of the safety protocols that I am observing. And we went to a lot of places outside of Metro Manila even, and we connected a lot of people, the farmers, for their produce, so that we can use them and give them as part of our relief efforts. We've gotten in touch with the local government units so that we can provide for those who continue to clean the streets as well. Yung mga basurero, no? They do that on an everyday basis, and they expose themselves as well. So they're part of our health side frontliners, aside from, of course, our medical frontliners. So I think it's very important that we are motivated to become motivated by the mere fact that we realize a lot of people have lost their jobs and are growing hungry. No? So it's not hard for us to collaborate with the other communities, to be able to go to them, to reach out. So I also think that we can be more triumphant when we rise up and hold hand, no, to be hand in hand, helping each other. And even my boss, Manuel V. Pangilinan, he goes to work every day, even during the height of the pandemic. And so it's no excuse for us to be just staying home and doing nothing. So I think we are inspired by his dedication and commitment to help more people and to reach out to those who are underserved. Thank you.
Okay, so Miss Bueno, do we have any other questions for our speakers?
Yes, please. This is my last question. This is for Mr. Chester Alfaro. Since
Yes.
I'm an aspiring tourism professional, I would like to know your insight about this. In this time of pandemic, what do you think still are the opportunities for the travel and tourist agency?
All right. Yeah. So, really is during these trying times, companies are still uh, like even during these trying times, there are still opening job openings. Um, they're just like a slight changes of business model. Like for example, travel agencies right now are focusing on catering to LSI, OFW, because when you have LSI, OFW coming in or out in the country, you still need quarantine facilities. You still need to book hotels. You still need to have charter cars, to, especially right now, because you don't want to book them on a shared service. Kasi most people nowadays want to have like a private transportation. Um, so there are still revenues coming in for a travel agency, but it won't be a tourism related. Most of it are non-tourism related, and travel agencies really fit on that aspect. No, you would still use whatever you learned from your school, like Sabre or Amadeus. There are still online bookings. Airplanes are still operational right now, and hotels are operational, and like 60% of them, I think, are accredited by the DOT to be a quarantine facility. Because when you go in back to our country, you still needed to have at least 5 days um, quarantine. No, in terms of the industry, like other like hotels, attractions, and activities, on that segment or verticals, it would be harder. Most of the employees, most of those companies actually retrenched or reduced because of the skeletal workforce. And like I heard, like I have a friend that is a manager in Boracay, one of the hotels there. They do multitasking. He's the general manager, he's the concierge, he's the housekeeping. They really, you know, utilize the resources that they have right now. But as time progressed, there are really noticeable increase of flights coming in, probably by Q3 or Q4 this year, with the vaccination program that we're having. And just to give you a positive note, when Boracay reopens last year, during October, when the government allowed travel, we have a steadily 35 increase of bookings from October, November, December, all the way to March. And even April was fully booked, even during pandemic. But you know what happened? Government shuts it down again, and then we totally have zero bookings. But when time happens, when travel is already feasible again, there's always, I mean, traveling should be essential, eh. But we cannot blame DTI for it. But the job opportunities will always be there. You just have to be creative and be optimistic. I hope I answer your question.
Again, our sincerest gratitude to our speakers. We know that you are very much aware that your schedules are all jam-packed, but you really took the time and effort to be with us today and share your experience and knowledge. And for that, we are sincerely giving our deepest gratitude for your time. Let us now award the certificates of recognition to our distinguished speakers.
Philippine Women's University School of Hospitality Management awards the certificate of appreciation to Ms. Atu for being a guest speaker in webinar series entitled Tourism and Hospitality Lecture Series, Reconditioning the Industry's Practices Towards the Better Normal, on June 26, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. via Zoom at the Philippine Women's University, Manila. Signed, Dr. Cristina N. Caluza, Professor, Dr. Jocelyn R. Sardena, Professor, and also to our by Dean Efraimwell Jose L. Abellana, Dean of the School of Hospitality Management. So this certificate is given to Miss Melody Del Rosario, and of course to Mr. Chester Alfaro. So thank you so much to our dearest speakers. I hope you have also a great time with us.
And of course, let us also award the certificates for our panel reactors.
So same certificate is given. A certificate of appreciation for being a panelist in the webinar series entitled Tourism and Hospitality Lecture Series, Reconditioning the Industry's Practices Towards the Better Normal, on June 2021 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. via Zoom at the Philippine Women's University, Manila. Signed, Dr. Cristina N. Caluza, Professor, Dr. Jocelyn R. Sardena, Professor, and of course, Dr. Efraimwell Jose L. Abellana, Dean of School of Hospitality Management. So this certificate is given to Dr. Evangeline Timbang, as well as Ms. Sherry Pilos, Ms. Marinel Bingkal, Dr. Lizelle Alfonso, Dr. Francia Yvette Magpantay, and of course to Ms. Jeanne Bueno. So once again, thank you so much for being with us in this webinar series. And you have imparted a lot of learnings to our participants and as well to all the organizers. So thank you so much.
Once again, thank you very much to our guest speakers and panel reactors for gracing our event this afternoon. To give us a synopsis of today's learnings, may we call on Dr. Ryan Gamoso, a DHM student.
All right, so mabuhay and good afternoon, everyone. For the summary or the synopsis of the webinar, this two-day webinar theme is Tourism and Hospitality Lecture Series, Reconditioning the Industry's Practices Towards the Better Normal. Indeed, we can say we were able to meet the targets of this webinar through our speakers, given topics on, for the first part, Jumpstart, Reimagining the MICE Industry in the Better Normal. Our first speaker, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk, with the topic, The Latest Trends, Best Practices, and Issues in the MICE Industry. He was able to discuss with us the importance of this industry and how it will continuously prosper despite the pandemic. Businesses will still have to include MICE in their process as it is one of the tools they can use to introduce their products and services, thus create some sales. He also shared with us the current situation in the MICE industry, which includes changing COVID policies, how it is affecting events as it will have to do a quick shift in accordance with these policies. He also discussed the current trends and the future of MICE industry. As he mentioned, MICE will return, may it be slow in progress, but at least it will, putting premium on the safety of everyone under the monitoring of the events team. Dr. Andy ended his presentation by motivating us all to always consider MICE as having the desire to grow in this industry leads to substantial opportunities in the future. The second speaker, Ms. Stephanie Relucio, with the topic Digital Events, the new normal of the MICE industry. She talked about the then and now of MICE or events industry, shared what we else could utilize in a form of a starter pack to make our digital events more engaging and experiences more memorable. Undeniably, the MICE industry is affected, thus leaving us limited. But with the speakers we have today and their sharing, indeed, we can really take our events, may it be online or on-site, to a whole new level. And I agree with you, Ms. Stephanie, when you said events are more beautiful now. We just have to think of ways to make it more distinctive. On the second part of this series, corporate social responsibility concepts as major driving forces in the hospitality and tourism industry's road to success in the COVID-19 era, our third speaker, Mr. Chester Alfaro, with the topic Crafting Sustainable CSR Strategies for Hospitality and Tourism for Organizational Success in the Climate of the Better Normal. I am just glad and actually amazed by how our speaker shared the CSR practices of Southwest Travel and Tours, focusing on employee relations. As I remembered my study in 2015 on CSR of travel agencies, there are actually a lot doing such in the hospitality industry, particularly with the hotels, but few in travel. And with what you have shown only means we are on it and we know why we are doing it. Businesses should really have a continuing commitment in benefiting the life of our employees, their families, the local, and the society as a whole. You are an epitome of businesses not only focusing on the bounds of generating profit, but touching and engaging consumers and employees. The fourth speaker, Ms. Melodia Del Rosario, with the topic Corporate Social Responsibility Giving in 2020, What We've Learned and What's Next. She shared with us the CSR pillars of Metro Pacific Investments Foundation and merely focused on addressing what the Filipinos really need. This surely will be useful and will serve as a guide by other businesses as they realign their practices to same with what Metro Pacific is doing. Indeed, I would agree on Miss Melody's statement, change strengthens resilience. With the unpredictable times, being adaptable to change is the only option we'll have to take, and highlighting on the value of sharing and bayanihan spirit within us to make us triumphant. Hence, something Filipinos cannot be questioned of, victorious and conquerors indeed. Yes, there may be countless challenges arising from time to time, and we don't even have any idea what else are ahead of us. But what's certain is nothing's gonna stop us from loving and helping people, especially our fellow Filipinos, the bearers of torches, continuously giving light to the dark corners of our country. We are still here in this situation, and it seems COVID-19 indeed would still be here to stay. It gets harder and challenging as time passes by, but let us be reminded every time, for as long as we live, we are holding the potential to be of service to others. And that would be in so many ways. We just have to figure out what it is and how can we be more contributive to the society. And to wrap this up, the Doctor of Hospitality Management students would like to thank our speakers, Dr. Andy Nazarechu, Ms. Stephanie Relucio, Mr. Chester Alfaro, and Ms. Melody Del Rosario for gracing this invitation and their time to share on the practices of their organization as they thrive in this better normal. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Doc Ryan, for summing up all the insights and learnings we have absorbed with this afternoon session. As we formally end this MICE virtual conference, we are elated and honored to have with us this afternoon our energetic and dynamic advisor, Dr. Christina Caluza.
Mabuhay! It's been a pleasure being with you, all of you today. On behalf of the Philippine Women's University, School of Hospitality Management, and the Doctor of Hospitality Management students, I would like to personally thank our speakers for gracing this activity. Your presence has been invaluable and without any doubt has helped make this lecture series a great success, meaningful more than what is expected. Truly, not just the PWU community benefited, but also the participants attending from the different parts of our country, the Philippines. This event indeed provided more learning opportunities, cultivated potentials in different fields from sales and marketing to CSR to MICE, and expanded as well our knowledge, equipping us to be more ready even up to this time, the pandemic. Truly, I can say and conclude that the purpose of this event has been completely accomplished. In this two-day lecture series theme, Tourism and Hospitality Lecture Series, Reconditioning the Industry's Practices Towards a Better Normal, we are challenging you to integrate all these learnings on the plans and projects of the organization or industry you are in or with to better the products and services you offer, while contributing and benefiting the community, making our industry grow stronger and our country as a whole a better place to live in. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the DHM students for coming up with a very good concept. Our series of events have become more exciting, thrilling, I must say, because of the great minds coming together. You all did an excellent program, exceeding our expectations. Well done, guys, and thank you and congratulations. Finally, I would like to express my appreciation to all of you for taking time out of what you are doing. I know it's the Saturday, yet you are here to support this event. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Dean, Dr. Efremuel Abellana, PWU Media Center, and the entire community of PWU for all your support to make this event possible. Indeed, not this pandemic nor any challenge could get into our hearts and minds, hindering us to love, to teach, to learn, and to serve. With this, I would like to close my remarks and officially announce the end of this lecture series. Wishing everyone a blessed day ahead and stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Caluza. We are really grateful for your unending support to our class, and this event will never be possible without your guidance. Flash on the screen right now is the QR code for the evaluation form of our event. We would highly appreciate it for you to send us your feedback of the overall webinar series. This shall also be a basis for the sending of our participants' e-certificate, and our evaluation team shall update you via your email for your e-certificates. As we end today's event, let us simultaneously sing the Philippine Women's University hymn virtually. participants coming from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We really appreciate you being here, and our dearest guest speakers and panel reactors for the shared insights, and of course, our generous sponsors for supporting our event. We really hope that you have enjoyed and absorbed all the learnings and discussions we've had this afternoon. On behalf of the organizing team, we extend our deepest gratitude for your participation in this two-day webinar series. Once again, this has been your host, Jamie Joyce O'Dangle, and may we all enjoy the rest of our day. Thank you, and we will see you again next time.